This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
It's time for Place to Be Nation's Year in Pop. Each episode, we go back in time to a year in the past and take a trip down memory lane and see what was going on in the worlds of news, sports, and pop culture with your hosts, Andy Atherton and Scott Criscuolo.
Place to Be Nation, welcome to another great episode of the Year in Pop on the Place to Be Nation Pop feed. I am your co-host, Andy Atherton, and thank you for joining us tonight. We have a tremendous show, tremendous year. They just seem to get better and better. This one is bulging at the seams with how much great stuff happened all across the board. But, you know, I'm not here to talk about myself. I have a tremendous crew, starting with my co-host. He is a co-host on the Place to Be podcast over on the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, as well as Main Event and Jenny and the Gems. You can hear him often on Pop Goes the Classics, here on the Pop feed, and over on the Jenny position. He's part of the Journey Through Infinity crew, Mr. Scott Criscuolo, the Podfather. Scott, long time, my friend. How are you?
It's funny, Mr. Atherton. We usually make fun of each other for being on like 8,800 pods, but I think this is the first pod I've been on with you in at least a month. Yeah, probably longer.
I think you were on the Great Debate Wrestling, which was probably about a month ago. We did that show.
It was about a month ago, right? Yeah. So it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's good to be back with you, sir.
Yeah.
One thing about the decade of the 1980s, the years just get better and better, and then they kind of tail off at the end before we get to the 90s. But we're like from I would say the next 5 years, from now till maybe 87. I think we're going to have an amazing 5-year stretch of just amazing shit up and down, music, movies, sports, all sorts of great stuff. And then I feel like the last 2 years of the decade get a little little weak as we get into the
90s start to creep in a little bit. But yeah, this is when people think of the decade, the 80s, this is peak 80s time. I mean, yes, the middle of the decade, everything, but this is just what we're going to talk about over the next few episodes. I mean, we're going to be lucky to contain ourselves to not a Lord of the Rings extended edition size podcast.
Could you imagine we did like an extended edition? These two guys probably killed themselves if we had to do it longer than we normally do. So, why don't we bring our two fine analysts in, because they've been with us from the beginning and are still with us. Amen to that. Mm-hmm. First off, he is my compadre over on the wrestling feed on the NWA Saturday Special, and we got a very special. Well, we don't know when this show's airing, so every week is special, I guess, with him and I. And he is the co-host of a brand new pod that'll be debuting in mid-July on the wrestling feed. And, the doctor, Dr. G, George Ribellino, who was enjoying his time in Florida in the mid-'80s. I believe Miami Vice started around this time, so you were you were wearing sockless shoes, I would imagine.
Sweaty feet. I sorry, you woke me up. Scott's how many podcasts he's on. I started falling asleep. There were so many I couldn't.
Yeah, because Andy's only on one. Yeah, you're going to be on more. You're going to be on as many as me. Although the guy that Andy's about to introduce, I think, is on every single feed in the quad, which is a record. I think he's on.
You know what it is? I think when people, they don't want to have any dead air on their podcast, so they say, "Oh, let's bring Scott on. He definitely could just rip the cord and he'll just keep going."
I'm talking about the AEW fan base tonight. Okay, that's on the other. No, I'm only kidding. Anyway, Doctor, always a pleasure. I love having you. Andy, why don't you bring in the fourth member of the Four Horsemen?
Oh, you can hear him everywhere throughout Place to Be Nation. He is off and on a lot of shows. Every couple of weeks, you hear him on the Extreme Three-Way Dance over on the North-South Connection, that fine podcast feed. Mr. J. Arsenio D'Amato. Johnny, how are you tonight?
Good evening, boys. Great to be back with you. Great to be talking about a year other than 2020.
Yeah.
That's a horror show.
For all of us suffering, a great man had one of his great moments in the year we're going to talk about. And just follow his words. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. It'll get better.
That is true. We will be talking about him in our sports segment. But of course, the year we are talking about is 1983, which many consider like the prelude to maybe the best year of the decade, which will be our next episode, 1984. Everyone seems to think that's the best year of the decade of the 80s. We'll talk about that in a month. But 1983 is almost like the pregame show for that. But 1983 had some pretty great things. As Johnny mentioned, probably one of the best NCAA tournaments of all time. No more strikes in sports. We had some amazing albums. TV was hot in 83. We had a great year for movies. Enough. We'll get there. Let's talk about way of life. Mr. Atherton, I hand you the mic, sir. Tell us about how we were living in 1983.
All right. So 1983, we're kind of coming back a little bit. Reaganomics was kicking in. The average cost of a new house was $82,600. That's only up slightly, $400. The average income only went up $20, $21,070. Your average monthly rent was about $335, up about $15. Average cost of a new car was around $10,607. Talk about popular toys going on. We were all starting to get a little older, not play with toys, but there were phenomenons like happen all the time. You know, we're going to talk about stuff in the future like Beanie Babies and other things, but this one was nuts. The Cabbage Patch doll craze. That was just insanity. They were sold out everywhere. People were waiting online outside of Toys R Us, KB Toys, Caldors, whatever stores were your thing, because there were so many different ones. Boys, girls. My sister, I think, has one in the box still, because she's like that kind of craziness. But do you guys remember the craze that was going on back then?
Yeah. I definitely do. I remember my mom going to one of the stores, I don't remember which store it was, to get one for my sister. And she said literally they had to call the police because two women were like ripping each other's hair out to get this doll. Can't fight! My mother actually did get one like a day before, like Christmas Eve, like on the 23rd of December, I think she got one. Just by chance, just trying at the last minute to go to the store, and they just happened to have a bunch, and she was able to get one. But yeah, she said it was insane. People were literally going for each other's throats over these dolls. I mean, it's insane, and they were the ugliest things. I don't even know what the affinity for those things were. I think it was because of the names.
Yeah,
they had like a name. Like a birth certificate?
Yeah, all that thing. Like the fact that they could be unique, I think. That there was a one of a kind.
My mom owned two. That's how crazy she was. She probably
Your
made my
mom
dad
had them?
My mom had two of them. Yeah. She had one. I don't remember the names. One was a girl with like long blonde hair and pigtails, and the other was like a little baby with like a little tuft on his head. I don't ask.
Ugly, those stupid
They
things.
were. They did. They looked like poop. They look like long turds. Trivia question: what was the name signed on its butt? The creator or whatever. Do you remember the name of the guy? The signature was on his butt.
That buffoon's name. What the heck was it? I don't know. I give up. I don't remember.
Tomato. Imagine Tomato. Tomato used this name at hotels. Andy, do you know?
No, I don't.
No.
Xavier Roberts.
Oh, that's right.
The name.
I remember that.
Xavier Roberts. So,
Now
Johnny, you could use that next time. Oh, Xavier Roberts in 447, please.
Yeah, that guy made a lot of money, let me tell
He
you.
had a ton of money.
Oh,
but yeah, no, my mom had two of them. My mom had two. Yep.
It was kind of like Black Friday, but for one product, basically. That's how it was. It was just, instead of TVs and all this shit, people were just going after these friggin' dolls.
And I gotta be honest, I agree with Dr. G. What was the affinity for them? I mean, they literally look like peach pits. That's what they look like. They look like peach pits. Not the Peach Pit.
Well,
Get to that show instead.
I mean, maybe they hadn't been unique ones. I mean, they were you could find, I guess you could find one in all shapes, sizes, colors, races, whatever have you. You know, not unfortunately throughout the years, and especially back then, there were little girls that couldn't find dolls that looked like them, or boys, or whatever. So maybe that's what led to the popularity, because, you know, I'm this kid that looks like this, and there's no toys, but wait, this toy looks like me, or this toy has my name. You know, how many people probably were out there looking for their namesake or something. You know, who knows how fads catch sometimes. But, you know, it was just insanity.
Crazy. No, it was. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Some other toys popular. Something you can't find today. The Dukes of Hazzard playset.
Don't even get me started on.
General Lee is persona non grata because of what is on its hood.
Yeah. Move on.
And then we had Glowworms, Little Tyke's Treehouse. See and Say was becoming popular back then. We still have those today. My kids had them when they were little. And also, you know, one thing we've started talking about now is video games here on the show. And 1983 was tremendous. I mean, there is going to be kind of a crash of video games towards the end of this year, but, you know, tremendous. In the arcade, we saw Star Wars, which, you know, by today's standards, the graphics are not great, but I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Arcade 1-Up series. They just came out with one, and it's very, very popular. Gyrus, another fun game, which was a space game. Mario Brothers makes its debut in Japan. It was first released in July of that year. It was designed by Shigeru Miyamoto, who also designed The Legend of Zelda and Donkey Kong, and Gunpei Yokoi, who created Metroid and the Game Boy, and was a flat platform-style game with phases. So it featured the now iconic characters of Mario and his brother Luigi, who were two plumbers who battled sewer creatures in New York. It was not initially a success, but it became successful through a series of games after the release of Super Mario Bros. In 1985 on the Nintendo Entertainment Gaming System. Yeah, Mario Bros. Launched like insanity, basically, in terms of video games. Just, I mean, if Nintendo wouldn't be in business today if it wasn't for Mario and Luigi too, who doesn't get enough credit. I mean, you had Mario Bros. Then you had Mario in Donkey Kong, and then you had, you know, Super Mario Bros. And all the permeations throughout the Nintendo system, and then the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch, all those. So, you guys Mario Bros. Fans?
Who wasn't? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't as crazy about it as some others, but I did. I liked it. You know, for the time, I didn't realize that, you know, they really were as so big, and you didn't even realize it at the time. But you're right. I mean, some of the stuff wouldn't even be around today if it probably wasn't for Mario Brothers.
Well, the original Mario Brothers game is kind of basic. You know, it had its clones, also Popeye. I don't know if you guys ever played that video game. It was kind of similar. Yep. Joust, I guess, is a very similar gameplay where it's like these levels and you got to avoid these creatures and hit some things and stuff. But some other stuff that came out though was these were these kind of laser disc kind of games they were called, I think. But Dragon's Lair came out, which was tremendous. It you know, launched a cartoon. Dirk the Daring became a huge thing, and you had to learn the patterns. That was the only way to get through the game. And then we got Space Ace, and then Dragon's Lair 2. I remember just spending hours at the arcade trying to watch people who knew the pattern and trying to learn it. You guys ever get far in Dragon's Lair?
I did. At my arcade, I went a good run through Dragon's Lair. It wasn't cheap though, because that was a 50-cent game.
Yes, it was.
So, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to go fast. You had to maximize your quarter stash to play Dragon's Lair.
Oh yeah,
you had to maximize it.
Pole Position 2 came out. The original Pole Position was good, but Pole Position 2 introduced more tracks, which was a lot of fun. And speaking of driving games,
I used to play that.
How about Spy Hunter? That's a tremendous driving game. First of all, you love the soundtrack. Dun, 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 dun. And then you had the the different kind of bad guy vehicles. You had the bulletproof one, the one with the wheels like the guy in Grease. They would take out your tires. Then you had the trucks that would come by, and you drive in the truck, and you get oil slick or a smoke screen or something like that. Also, another big game that came out there, Punch Out. the original Punch-Out, though, the arcade version, it became more popular once the Mike Tyson version came out for the Nintendo. And a couple other games, Tapper, Elevator Action, another, which I actually just got for Father's Day. I got a mini version of Elevator Action. And the Journey. Remember the Journey game with the band? That ridiculous.
That game is awful. It's as great as that album is, which we'll talk about in the B block. That video game sucked. It was terrible. It was so hard to maneuver. It was as bad as the E.T. game.
Yes.
It was so bad. The only cool thing about that game was it played like, and the cool thing about it was, and Johnny might remember this, it played like the album cuts. Like, it played like Chain Reaction. Like, other than the video on MTV, you never heard Chain Reaction, and that song's awesome. So, but the game itself was not great. It was.
Well, I think each level was a different song. I think, as far as I can remember. I remember being like somewhere like Wildwood, New Jersey, and my cousin playing it, and she was a huge Journey fan. Track and Field, another great game that came out. That was a button masher back then. And then on the consoles, the Atari 2600 was starting to show its age, but we had stuff like Decathlon, Keystone Caper, Centipede, some of the series called Sword Quest, which kind of crapped the bed. But the Atari 5200 came out that year, featuring games like Berserk, Congo Bongo, Joust. ColecoVision saw Mr. Do and Sub Rock and Time Pilot come out. And in television, you saw Bump and Jump, Burger Time, Kool-Aid Man. As well on PC, we saw Lode Runner and Bomberman. Some of the other pop culture stories of that year: the new land speed record of 633.468 miles per hour is set by Richard Noble, driving Thrust 2 at the Black Rock Desert in Nevada. The first mobile phones to the public are introduced by Motorola. ARPANET officially changes to use the Internet Protocol, creating the Internet. Microsoft Word is first released. The first person to receive an artificial heart, Barney Clark, passed away 112 days after the surgery. Swatch introduced their first watches. Did you guys get involved in the Swatch craze? That was maybe that was Cabbage Patch Kids for teenagers.
I have a Swatch.
Yeah, I did too.
How many did you have in your collection?
Just one. I just had one.
I'm not a watch guy, but I wanted a Swatch. So I'll be honest, I was the worst when it came to jumping on fads when I was a kid. I'm not as bad now as an adult, but anything that was cool, I jumped on. Jean jackets, all that shit.
Oh, yeah, you had the jean jacket even when we were in college.
Yeah, I still had my jean jacket when I met you. But I had a Swatch. It was gray. Johnny would have appreciated it. It was gray. It had like red on it and like light blue. It was typical Swatch watch. But it was cool.
Didn't they have these like rubber things that would go over the face, right, so you wouldn't scratch it?
Yes, I didn't have one of those, but
yeah, I remember having that.
But yeah, there are some.
Mm-hmm. The first 3D printer is invented that year by Chuck Hill. Here's something we could talk about in music, but on July 23rd of that year, Diana Ross's concert on the Great Lawn of New York City Central Park, attended by 800,000 fans, was cut short by a massive lightning storm. 800,000 people in one place. By 2020 standards, that's just, the world is over.
Exactly.
That's a petri dish right there. But just imagine, though, 800,000 people gathering in New York City to see Diana Ross in Central Park. Could you imagine what people camp out for like a week or a month to get like close to the stage?
And for her, that's even worse. Who the hell want to camp out to listen to her?
Well,
Simon Garfunkel 2 years earlier, I get, but who the hell wants to listen to that wench?
Also that year, on September 17th, Vanessa L. Williams becomes the first African-American to be crowned Miss America in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Here's something that...
Her story does not end, as we very well know, later on down the decade.
Mm-hmm. Here's one. The one place, actually, the four of us all were together about a year ago. The first Hooters restaurant is open in Clearwater, Florida, October 4th. We celebrated your birthday last year, Scott, in Hooters after an NXT show.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. A tremendous good time. Poor Johnny had to wait for his food.
It was worth it.
The women didn't even try.
Patient.
Yes, Johnny is a saint with his patience. On November 2nd of that year, Martin Luther King Jr. Day at the White House Rose Garden, President Reagan signed a bill creating a federal holiday on the third Monday of every January to honor the American civil rights leader. It's first observed in 1986. On November 4th, Chrysler introduces the Dodge Caravan, which is the first minivan, as it's now known. And McDonald's, although we don't know when that year, introduced the McNugget. Now, what did you guys think of the McNugget when it first came out? This was like a game changer, I think. Because, you wanted chicken, you'd go to KFC. Were you guys big McNugget fans?
I don't know. Not really. I mean, I probably was. Because I didn't have I didn't have a at least in my neighborhood, I didn't have a Kentucky Fried Chicken till like, I don't know, 89, I think, or something. My town was behind the times when it came to like fast food and chains. I had a McDonald's. My brother worked at one. We had a Burger King.
That's the
we had Hardee's. See, I loved Hardee's. But that moved out in the late 80s, about maybe 5 years later, in 88, 89, they left. But I didn't get a KFC or any of that kind of stuff till later in the decade. So Chicken McNuggets for me was like, holy shit, chicken without the bone? Dr. G could tell you, I hated eating chicken off the bone. So having to just be able to eat chicken without having to pick it off and shit, it's garbage. It's chicken for lazy people. That's why I adapted to it. But until I figured out what the fuck it looks like before they cook it, and then I can't
do you want to eat boneless wings too?
No, wings are different because wings you don't need a knife. Wings you just pick up, eat, and drop. You don't have to like pick at a piece of chicken with a fork and a knife. That's annoying. Buffalo wings are different because you can just eat it and drop it. It's different. But anyway. But yeah, it was a game changer because
I liked the McNuggets when I was a kid. Not now, but I liked them when I was a kid.
Yeah, because honestly,
now when you find out they're all processed anyway,
pieces, parts,
got that pink shit on them. Because think about it, when we talked about this, guys, and we talked about like McDonald's breakfast and stuff. The big things at McDonald's was the hamburger, the cheeseburger, the Big Mac, and the quarter pounder with cheese. That's it. That was their wheelhouse. Were those four things. And then obviously the breakfast stuff separate. I'm talking mostly just the regular food, because you had Egg McMuffin and hotcakes and sausage and that kind of stuff. But the other stuff, McNuggets just changed. It did change the game because at the time, not everybody had a KFC and Popeyes and Bojangles and Chick-fil-A years and years before they came around. So it was KFC or you cook chicken, So
yeah, pretty much nobody had nuggets anywhere. I mean, it was an alternative. I mean, either you ate hamburger or you ate a fillet of fish. That's usually your choices.
Oh yeah, fillet of fish. I forgot about fillet of fish.
Give me that fillet
McDonald's
of fish.
at Lent.
Give me that fish.
McDonald's at Lent.
Yes. All right. So some of the famous people that passed away, unfortunately, that year. The great singer Karen Carpenter. She died due to complications from anorexia nervosa. The legendary playwright Tennessee Williams died as well that year. Gloria Swanson, the actress who was ready for a close-up. Mr. DeVille on Sunset Boulevard. Jack Dempsey, the great world heavyweight boxing champion. Norma Shear, who was married to MGM Wonderboy Irving Thalberg. David Niven, the great actor and seen in many movies. He played Phileas Fogg in Around the World in 80 Days. The beautiful Carolyn Jones, the original Morticia on the Addams Family. She did a tremendous job in that show. Ira Gershwin, the famous lyricist. Let's see through the list. Jessica Savage, the news anchor, fortunately died drunk driving car accident.
She had a ton of problems. She was in drug issues. She was a big cokehead. Yeah, that was a shocker.
She was visibly drunk on the air like a few weeks before she ended up dying.
Yes. That's one of the first. That was one of the first True Hollywood stories I ever watched on E. Was Jessica Savage. That was a big one.
Yes, as well as Slim Pickens, the actor, best known for I know him mostly for Blazing Saddles, Taggart.
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove.
He sat on the missile and Dr. Strangelove. Yep.
The bomb rider, they called him. I just remember, we need some dimes. Anybody? We need a shit ton of dimes. Anybody? And
you use your tongue better than a $20 whore.
And we got William Demarest, who was Uncle Charlie on My Three Sons, and Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys died in an unfortunate drowning accident. Some of the notable births that year in the world of acting, we had Chris Hemsworth, Thor himself was born, Emily Blunt, Mila Kunis, Kylo Ren, Adam Driver was born that year, Jonah Hill. It's amazing, Jonah Hill and Chris Hemsworth are the same age. Jesse Eisenberg, Lupita Nyong'o, Adam Devine, Aziz Ansari, and then we saw Carrie Underwood, also born that year. In the world of sports, we have Aaron Rodgers and Larry Fitzgerald. And in the world of wrestling, we have like the Bella Twins, Braun Strowman, Summer Rae, Kenny Omega, Heath Slater. So, that's going to wrap up our pop culture. Let's move on to sports with my co-host, Mr. Criscuolo. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. We will begin 1983 in sports in Major League Baseball. Two guys went into the Hall of Fame. Tremendous Baltimore Orioles third baseman Brooks Robinson, who, of course, was known for those amazing plays he made in the 1970 World Series to help the Orioles beat the Reds. And one of the greatest pitchers in San Francisco Giants history, Juan Marichal, who was notorious for throwing a bat at a guy when he was hitting. Or was it the other way around? No, I think he threw the bat. Anyway, he was in the Hall of Fame. And on the Veterans Committee, Walter Alston, the former Dodgers manager, and George Kell. The Orioles, White Sox, Phillies, and Dodgers won the divisions. Cal Ripken, as he began his tremendous career, second year in the league, won the MVP. Dale Murphy of the Braves, back-to-back National League MVPs for a pretty lousy fucking Braves. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. The Braves were Joe Torre was managing at that time. The Braves were halfway decent. Lamar Hoyt won the Cy Young Award for the White Sox. John Denny won the NL Cy Young for the Phillies. The AL Rookie of the Year, Ron Kittle of the White Sox, who, of course, would be a future Yankee. And in the beginning, he was drafted 3 years earlier, and even though we finished in last that year, the straw man, Darryl Strawberry, won the National League Rookie of the Year as Johnny D'Amato's and my New York Mets were slowly beginning their ascent in 1983. More to come in the next few years on the Year in Pop involving the Metropolitan Baseball Organizational Club. The 1983 World Series, the Orioles, after being blowing a 3-1 lead in 1979, got their championship. They beat the Philadelphia Phillies 4-1. Rick Dempsey won the World Series MVP. And believe it or not, this is a weird trivia question. Everybody seems to think Earl Weaver managed that team. He did not. Joe Altobelli managed the Orioles. Earl Weaver was fired because he's a fucking nut job. Paul Owens was the manager for the Phillies. But Earl Weaver, so funny. I think I mentioned this on a previous episode. Earl Weaver had a pocket stitched into his, this is like a Super 70 sports guy thing. He had a pocket stitched into his jersey so he could hide his cigarettes because Major League Baseball used to get pissed off when they would show his cigarettes in the back pocket. Instead of having like a Red Man can in his back pocket, he had a pack of Marlboros.
Well, yeah, so Jim Leland used to sneak out for cigarettes during games too, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. But he had a pocket for his lung darts in his because you know what, when you got to go to the mound in a losing effort, you're going to need some flavor country. So, in the immortal words of Super 70 Sport.
And one of the best arguers in the history of baseball.
Yes.
Too.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Speaking of arguers, some notes from 1983. Mr. Atherton and Mr. Ribellino will certainly appreciate this. For the one thing about we have to do these in pages, Andy. I'm trying to move down the fucking Google Doc as a bitch. Here we go. For the third time in 8 years, George Steinbrenner hires Billy Martin as manager. Dr. G, what was their obsession? Were they in love? Like, what was it between the two of them? Why didn't he just keep the fucking job instead of firing him all the time? He loved him so much.
I don't know. Those two were like oil and water at times. They loved each other one minute, they hated each other the next minute. I one of those weird relationships that even till today it's very hard to understand. He loved Billy, but Billy would go off the rails a little bit, so let's get rid of him for a little while and then bring him back when because he was a fan favorite. The fans loved him. Mm-hmm. So he knew, okay, we could always bring Billy back, make everybody happy. God, the organization was a mess at that time. And even though they won so many games, but they just never won the big one, they were just a disaster in the 80s. They really were.
Him and Billy and George couldn't quit each other, basically. I can't quit
Oh, my
you.
God.
I can't quit you. I love you 3000. On April 13th of that season, Bo Diaz accomplishes something only 11 other Major League players have in the, at the time, 150-plus year history of the sport, known as the Sayonara Slam, which is a walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs and down by 3 runs. They were trailing the Mets 9-6, and down to their last out, Bo Diaz drives a pitch out of the vet, and the pitcher, Johnny, good old Neil Allen. Yep, probably doesn't remember because he was probably shit-faced.
Yeah, exactly. Right after he cried, and he said he was an alcoholic, and he cried like a bitch. But that's okay, because 2 months later, we packaged him with another shit pitcher, and we got somebody named Keith Hernandez.
Yes.
On
Mex.
June 15th of 1983 of that year. So
That is
it all
correct.
worked out.
It did work out. Mex came from the Cardinals. Everyone thought he was a head case, even though the previous year the Cardinals were world champions. Okay, you can have this alcoholic reliever. We'll take the best first baseman in the National League. Probably at the time, the best first baseman in baseball, because Donald Arthur Mattingly was only in his first year in the league. So, and then, of course, they shared New York as the 2 best first basemen in baseball. Nolan Ryan struck out Brad Mills on April 27th for his 3,509th strikeout, which broke the longtime record established by Walter Johnson. He would be on top for many years. And, of course, he would eventually set a big record, which we'll get to when we get there. New Year's, yeah. 4th of July. New Year's, everybody was drunk. No, 4th of, including Neil Allen. 4th of July, 1983. It was like 550 degrees in the Northeast. But the Yankees and Red Sox played at Yankee Stadium, and little Andy was there with his little batting helmet and his little, what was it? Was it Yankee Bat Day that day? Do you remember the, do you remember the giveaway?
No, I think I'd have to go back and look. I had the ticket stuff somewhere. I think it might be at my parents' house. But, yeah, there was a giveaway. It wasn't bats. I know that. It may have been helmets, those plastic helmets. I'm not sure. But, yeah, it was hot that day. And we were in box seats, though. We had really good seats. My father, still had some of his Wall Street connections. Yeah, but you can go ahead and finish the story,
yes.
And I can go.
So on this day, of course, it wasn't just the game. We're not talking about just because Andy was there. He's not. It was that Dave Righetti, who was a starter for the Yankees, no hit the Boston Red Sox on that day, and Righetti, of course, would eventually leave the starting rotation and end up becoming a pretty damn good closer, and we'll get to that in a few episodes.
Yeah.
I remember being. What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I remember being home. Of course, I was the only non-Yankee fan in the family, so I at the time really didn't give 2 shits. But it was 4th of July, and we had a pool. So every 4th of July, we had like 89 people over, mostly people my mom didn't like. But at the time, mostly my relatives on my dad's side. But no, we had a good time. Big wiffle ball game in the front yard and everything. My dad's on the grill, and the reception on was it ABC at the time? I don't know. Gee, was it ABC? Was ABC still doing the Yankees in '83?
I think so. Remember, I mean, even though I did come up here for the summer, I live down in Florida, so I don't remember.
It was 77, yeah.
Well, so 77 WA. Oh, that was 66 WA and BBC. 77 WABC, which was news at the time. They stopped doing music. And I was running in and out of the house because I would get my mom's, she wanted, the hors d'oeuvres, deviled eggs, and all that kind of fun shit. And my dad would be like, check the score. I go back, nope, no hit yet. Okay. 10 minutes later, go look again. Run back in, grab another beer for my dad, a Stroh's or a Bud or something. Still no hits. And then trying to listen to Frank Messer, who might have been burping. And speaking of drunks, Frank Messer probably trying to do the play-by-play on the radio. And I think the thing that's great about that is the guy that Righetti struck out to end the game. And that was arguably at that time, and he was just coming into his own as one of the best hitters in the league. And that's Wade Boggs. Yep. And Righetti actually got him to strike out swinging, which is pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. So I got to give Righetti credit for that. So I did it again. 4th of July, 1983. I'm thinking New Year's Eve for some reason. Maybe I want to meet Neil Allen. 4th of July, 1983. Dave Righetti, no hits. The Boston Red Sox, and it was like 99 degrees at Yankee.
It was hot. I remember fond memory for me because I said to my dad, we go to Yankee games a couple times a year, and I told my dad I wanted to see Righetti pitch, so he got tickets for. Whenever I had asked him, he got tickets for an upcoming Righetti start. So we were there, and I remember Chuck Mangione serenaded him afterwards, and he was just exhausted, and it was just a tremendous feeling and a great memory that, lucky to have. I mean, because no-hitters don't happen often, perfect games, what have you. As Yankee fans, we've been lucky enough to see quite a number of them, and they usually were a good luck charm some years. But yeah, it was a tremendous time to be a 10-year-old kid who loved the Yankees.
Absolutely. Doc, I know Johnny.
Cool story.
Yeah, I know Johnny. You weren't probably listening.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Nah, I remember it was very hot that day. I was watching. I think I was watching with the old man. It was a hot day, and I was kind of rooting for him to get the no-hitter.
Mm-hmm. Dr. G, you were at the poolside listening to what was it?
No, I was in Brooklyn because we came up for the summers to visit family, and I do remember because my uncle had a pool, and we always had the Yankee games on the radio, so I do remember that, and trying to get the updates, from the pool, because we were in the pool, and my uncle would let me know, or you could hear it, but just in case, and then everybody came out of the pool like for the last inning, to listen to it, and everybody going crazy. But it's so funny because in those days, everybody, of course, being so hot, everybody was outside on their stoops or in their backyards if they had pools, and so you could hear everybody like cheering all at the same time. And everybody going crazy. It's like a neighborhood thing. So it's something I'll never forget. It's one of those things I'll never forget where I was, kind of thing in my life, and that's one of them. Just because I remember it being very hot. Me coming from Florida where everything was air conditioned. So here, my uncle was so cheap not wanting to put the air conditioner on. So of course we had to be outside. So I wasn't too thrilled. I was used to being in air conditioning all the time. I was like, I like the central air thing. I don't go for these in the wall air conditioning things, But I do remember it fondly. So it was a great day.
Yes,
and the radio team back then, it was before John and Sue's, so like Bill White and Rizzuto, they would switch off. They would do like the first 3 innings on TV, and they would switch off to the booth with the guy. I think it was John Gordon. That was the guy that was lone radio. But the other guys like
it was Bill White and Rizzuto.
Yeah, Messa, White, and Rizzuto. They would do a couple innings on TV, and then they would do a couple innings on radio. So it was the same guy.
Yeah, I think they stopped doing that in like 85, 86.
Yeah, when Michael Kay.
No, it was Hank Greenwald and Tommy Hutton for a couple of years.
Mercer came in,
and then Sterling came in. Then it was John Sterling and
with Michael Kay. Yeah.
No, that was later on. It was John Sterling originally with Jay Johnstone.
Oh
yeah. They went through guys every year. Charlie, they fired him after a couple of years. So
and that was
Charlie from
Charlie
ESPN,
Steiner.
Yeah. Yeah,
he does the Dodgers.
Till eventually Sue's took over, and they couldn't get rid of that cunt.
Oh, John! Wait, box, John! Righetti can't get box out. Oh, Susan, why don't you just stay under the desk? And,
I thought Sterling and Kay were the best combination of that,
Yeah, they were too sober. I like Frank Messer was good when you can hear the glass and the ice clanging. Anyway, it's like Gordon Soley doing wrestling. Anyway. 20 days later, another big game would take place at Yankee Stadium in July of 1983. This one did not go the Yankees' way. It was called the Pine Tar Game. Of course, George Brett hits an apparent go-ahead 2-run homer off of the Goose in the 9th inning of a game against the Yankees at the stadium. Billy Martin, a fucking prick that he is, challenges that Brett's speaking of a guy who was probably, he might have been sober for this, had more than 18 inches of... But seriously, though, if Clyde King was manager, you think he'd have even noticed? No, only fucking prickhead Billy Martin would notice.
Well, they hated the Royals, and the Royals hated the Yankees at that time, so they loved to needle each other whenever they had the opportunity.
So the Tim McClellan said, yes, he did have too much pine tar. He's called out. Brett I thought he was going to fucking Roman Reigns spear Tim McClellan out of the fucking dugout. The AL, Dr. Bobby Brown, the president of the AL, held it up. They played again. They replayed the game, picked up the game a month later. They held the home run, and the Royals won the game 5-4. But neither team made the playoffs anyway.
You know who played second base in that game? When they restarted the game again?
Second base for was it Mattingly?
Yep.
It was Donnie.
Second base is a lefty, and I think Guidry played center field.
Oh, yeah, because they protested. So they just threw out,
right.
a ridiculous lineup.
Well, it's like 3 years later when when the Mets and Reds played that game when Eric Davis and fucking Ray Knight, Monroe, when Ray Knight.
Are you going to pitch the ball? We're waiting.
Who's the one that's drinking? That's what I want to know.
New Year's Eve with Ted Knight. Not anyway.
Scott, you're silly.
So the Royals won the game, but anyway, neither team made the playoffs anyway. The White Sox won the West, and the Orioles, of course, won the East and won the World Series. So, all right. So there's baseball in 1983. Johnny earlier on mentioned the 1983 NCAA tournament. And that was a special tournament. It was probably one of the best competitive-wise tournaments in a long time. It was the only one that Georgetown did not make the Final Four. So the only year of Patrick Ewing's 4 years at Georgetown that he did not make the Final Four. Patrick's dad passed away. He was almost going to leave school, and his mom said, "You will not. You will get your degree." But so Georgetown struggled that year. I think they lost in a regional semis. But this was laid out for Clyde Drexler. Man, am I sitting next to Neil Allen? Akeem Olajuwon and the Phi Slamma Jamma of the Houston Cougars. They were laid out to win this tournament. They made it to the Final Four the year before, lost to Carolina, who was an amazing team in '82, as we said in the last show. And they took on Georgia. Georgia was in that Final Four, and they, of course, had Dominique Wilkins. Louisville was in that Final Four, and this team down in the ACC, coached by an Iona ex-head coach, Jimmy Valvano, and I had to do that. And Valvano said, "Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Survive and advance." Another great 30 for 30 on ESPN, and. NC State picked and clawed their way through that tournament. They had, I'm trying to think, they had Derek Wittenberg. Who was the guard? Oh, shit, I can't think of his name. I think he coached the Timberwolves. Damn it, I can't think of his name. Whatever. And power forward Lorenzo Charles. And NC State and Houston made it to the national championship game at the Pit in Albuquerque. And Houston that year, they were all athletic. They could dunk, play defense, but when it came to the fundamentals of hoops, they couldn't shoot to save their lives, and they couldn't hit free throws. And that's what killed them in that game. Clyde Drexler was the only one that could hit free throws. Michael Young, even Olajuwon, Alvin Franklin, all these guys were bricking free throws like crazy in the last 3 minutes of that game. They make those free throws, this game doesn't end the way it does. And with the game tied, Wittenberg throws up a prayer at the top of the key. Lorenzo Charles catches it in midair and drops it. And with a 54-52 win, the Wolfpack of North Carolina State won the national championship. And, of course, the indelible image of Jim Valvano running around looking for somebody to hug, and he does. And, of course, as Johnny mentioned, a great quote because he would sadly pass away 10 years later to cancer. We'll talk more about Jim Valvano when we get there.
Sidney Lowe was the
Sidney Lowe, thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah. Sidney Lowe. Sidney Lowe was the guard, Wittenberg was the 2, and Lorenzo Charles was the power forward, amongst other guys, obviously.
And Thurl Bailey was a freshman. Yeah.
Yes, Thurl Bailey. And, of course, I can't, no disrespect, I can't do that. The 1 year in Patrick's 4 that Georgetown did not win the Big East tournament, who won it in '83? The Redmen of St. John's, right? The Johnnies won it in '83, right? Or was it Syracuse? No, St. John's won it, didn't they, Johnny? Did St. John's win it in '83? I think they did. Right? I'm going to double check now. Pretty sure that St. John's won the Big East tournament that year. Let me see. Yep. BC as the 8th seed.
Yeah, one of the lone times. Yeah, but that NC State team wasn't as it wasn't as underrated as everyone make them out to be. They did have 4 guys make the NBA. As you said, Sidney Lowe, Thurl Bailey, and McQueen and Charles both had a cup of coffee. So.
Yeah, St. John's 12-4, 28-5, and they were the 8 seed, which is kind of nuts. Did they reseed? Oh, they must have reseed. Oh, no, they were the 3 seed. They were 8th in the country. I'm sorry. They were the 3 seed. And BC was the number 1 seed. That's kind of odd. And, look at that. Providence lost in the first round. Bummer. St. John. And Georgetown lost to Syracuse in the quarters. But St. John's, with an 85-77 win, led by Chris Mullen, won the Big East tournament. So, I had to mention that for my man Johnny. So there you go.
Yeah, one of the rare moments of glory.
That's right. The NBA draft. Ralph Sampson of Virginia was the number 1 pick of the Houston Rockets. Byron Scott was picked 4th by the Clippers, the San Diego Clippers. Of course, we know where he would end up. With the 14th pick in the 83 draft, Clyde Drexler went to Portland. I'm purposely mentioning that specifically because that's a big fact that we will get into in next year's NBA draft. The fact that Clyde Drexler went to Portland.
Yeah, 2-guard.
Yep, 2-guard. Did Portland need a 2-guard the following year? More on that next year. Bill Bradley, by the way. 2 of Johnny's guys went in the Hall of Fame that year. Bill Bradley, Dave DeBusschere,
yep,
and Jack Lyman. More on DeBusschere in 1985. Can't wait for that. In the 82-83 NBA season, Moses Malone, in an off-season trade, went to the Sixers from Houston. He won the MVP for the 2nd straight year. Terry Cummings from DePaul won the Rookie of the Year with the San Diego Clippers. And the Philadelphia 76ers, Dr. G's guy, Dr. J, Julius Erving, finally won his NBA title, sweeping the Lakers in 4 straight. James Worthy had broken his leg. Fo ended up being fo-fa-fo. Milwaukee was the only one that could get a dent in the fo-fo-fo. And so congrats to Doc. I was actually not upset that the Lakers got swept because I like Dr. J, and Julius is an amazing guy and an amazing player. So I didn't mind.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that. I like Dr. J.
Showdown 83 turned into blowout 83.
Blowout 83, yeah, the Lakers. The Sixers.
Scumbag Lakers didn't give him any competition.
Dr. G, did you have your little Dr. J? Did you have a little Sixers pennant? Was there any Sixers stuff in
I did. I watched it with my father, the whole series.
Because your dad.
I loved it.
That's because your dad had 250 on the Sixers.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I was happy for Doc. It's hard to believe this is his only one. He came close a couple of times, but this was his only one. Yeah.
Yep. Of course, he won a couple of ABA titles with the Nets, playing in Johnny's backyard at the Mausoleum. And so.
He was so fun to watch, though.
Oh, he was. What an amazing player. Absolutely amazing player. It's very notable, the 82-83 NBA season, because it will be the last for Larry O'Brien. He would retire as commissioner of the NBA. The following year would be the first year for David Stern as commissioner.
Wow.
Okay, so there you go.
The beginning of a great run, man.
A great run, yes. And this was actually, just a side note, this was the final year for Wilson being the official NBA game ball, which they had back in 1946. Spalding would take over. Not Spalding, Judge Smale's nephew, but Spalding would become the new ball of the NBA in 83-84. So. All right, let's move on to the NFL. And arguably, guys, it's time to talk about that draft. The 1983 NFL draft, otherwise known as the QB draft. And we mentioned ESPN often tonight. They did another great 30 for 30 called From Elway to Marino. And they talk about that 83 draft. And, of course, Johnny and Dr. G and Andy, your boy Ernie Accorsi, who would, of course, be a future Giant employee, was the GM of the Colts, drafted John Elway anyway with the number 1 pick, even though he had pretty much said he wasn't playing for the Colts. And then the chess game began on that day in 1983. Other draft picks, Eric Dickerson went number 2, one half of the Pony Express, went to the Rams. Kurt Warner, not that Kurt Warner, the other Kurt Warner, running back for the Nittany Lions of Penn State, drafted 3rd by Seattle. Other quarterbacks drafted that year, Ken O'Brien, Tony Eason. Jim Kelly was drafted, even though he was the property of the Houston Gamblers, and you're thinking, who the hell are they? We'll get to that in a minute. And then with the 27th pick, and this pick was should have been pretty obvious considering what happened in January of 83. Don Shula and the Miami Dolphins took Dan Marino with the 27th pick. I remember watching that draft with my brother. The Cowboys ended up taking, I think they took Jim Jeffcoat in the draft that year. And I liked Eric Dickerson, so I was pumped to see him go to the Rams because I liked SMU. Of course, little do we realize what they would what would happen to them. Boy, 1983 was the year that all of the 30 for 30 topics would come up in 1983 because that's kind of when the shit hit the fan for SMU too. And of course, Elway would go to Denver for I can't think of his name. He was a lineman that got drafted by the Broncos from I think he was at Alabama, and then he went to the Colts. And we all know what happened for John Elway after that. Dr. G, John Elway almost played for you guys. And no, not the New York Football Giants, but the New York Baseball Yankees. If he wasn't if he wasn't getting traded, could you imagine? He actually wasn't a bad. What was he? Third baseman or shortstop? I'm trying to think.
I want to say. I want to say he was in it. I remember seeing a card of him for the outfield, but I don't remember. To be honest, I'm not gonna.
But anyway, he said he would play for the Yankees if he did not get traded. Of course, he would get traded. We see that happen many times down the line in NFL history. Bobby Bell, Sid Gilman, Sonny Jurgensen. Speaking of, wow, we had a lot of guys a lot of athletes that enjoyed imbibing in 1983. Sonny Jurgensen, Bobby Mitchell, and Paul Warfield going into the NFL. That's a good Hall of Fame class. That January, sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, not to prolong the nightmare for the Jet fans, but the reason why Marino slipped was because there was some drug allegations that he had failed a coke test or something. There were just rumors, never confirmed. So that was why he dropped to 27th, and the Jets took O'Brien ahead of him. So
yep, Cal Davis. They took the Jets took a D2 quarterback. Fitting. Anyway, Super Bowl 17 was that previous January at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. John Riggins and the Redskins beat the Dolphins 27-17. Of course, the Dolphins had David Woodley as quarterback. We saw how he played in that game, and that's why the Dolphins drafted Dan Marino. So, any event. Riggins is the MVP, 166 yards rushing, which would be a Super Bowl record broken a year later by somebody else. We'll get to that in our next episode. Then in the 1983 season, the Redskins continued their dominance. They set a record for points scored. Joe Theismann won the MVP. Joe Gibbs won the Coach of the Year. And we'll see who won the Super Bowl for that season in our next episode. In college football, one of the greatest national championship games ever played, the Orange Bowl. That was the infamous, I shouldn't say infamous, great game between the Cornhuskers of Nebraska, led by Heisman Trophy winner Mike Rozier, taking on Howard Schnellenberger's Hurricanes of Miami. Last game for Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly was gone. I believe this was Bernie Kosar's first game, I'm pretty sure, or first season. Nebraska went for 2, didn't get it. And Miami had Nebraska gone for the tie. If Tom Osborne went for the tie, Nebraska would have won the national championship. Instead, they went for 2, didn't get it. The Hurricanes won 31-30 for what would be their first of a few national championships in the decade of the 1980s. Thus, the legacy of the U was born. But one more thing happened in football, guys, in 1983. The United States Football League started. Started by a bunch of renegade owners, led by a guy who I think owned the Tampa Bay team. I'm trying to find his name. He would end up dying of cancer by the time the USFL dumped. But, of course, they would try to pick NFL draft picks, and they would end up getting guys that would leave the NFL and make more money in the USFL. Here were the original teams. The Arizona Wranglers, who would then become the Outlaws. The Birmingham Stallions, the Boston Breakers, the Chicago Blitz, the Denver Gold, the LA Express, the Michigan Panthers, the New Jersey Generals, that was my team, the Oakland Invaders, the Philadelphia Stars, the Tampa Bay Bandits, and the Washington Federals. Those were the inaugural teams. Of course, there were the other teams.
Bassett was the guy. John Bassett was the
John Bassett, yes. He was the one that owned the Tampa Bay Bandits.
Great book by Jeff Pearlman on the USFL. Tremendous.
Yes. Jeff Pearlman's an amazing author. He's written everything about all my teams, which is funny. And in September of that year, the New Jersey Generals were sold to our current president of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump. More on Trump and more on the USFL in a couple of years. In hockey, Johnny, finally, we won't have to talk about this fucking team anymore. The New York Islanders won their 4th straight Stanley Cup. They beat the Oilers in 4th straight, their 2nd straight sweep. But it'll be the last of the 4 in a row, so Johnny doesn't have to listen anymore to this bullshit about the fucking Islanders. However, the Dr. G would find his favorite NHL team because prior to the start of the 82-83 season, the Colorado Rockies moved east, nestled into the Brendan Byrne Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and became Dr. G's beloved New Jersey Devils.
When I think about it, that was a weird place to really put a team with having 2 New York teams there.
And wasn't that crazy? The Bruins bitched in 1980 when the Whalers came to the NHL from the WHA. You tell me the Rangers and Islanders didn't complain about a 3rd team in the tri-state area? That's kind of odd, right? That's very weird. I'm surprised they got away. No, I don't say got away. I'm surprised that they were able to pull that off, to be honest with you. Anyway, they did a lot of shifting. And the Calgary Flames, and I'm making a point to say this, would leave their Stampede Corral, that was their arena, to enter what would end up becoming the Olympic Saddle Dome, because earlier that year in 1983, it was announced that the 1988 Winter Olympics would be in Calgary. So they had to build an arena, so they built the Saddle Dome. And that would be the Flames' new building, and still is today. And the Flyers and Whalers got rid of those weird bell-bottom pant things that they wore for that year, because they looked stupid. 2 Blackhawks and a Canadian made it to the Hall of Fame: Ken Dryden, Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita. 4 different golfers won the 4 majors. Hal Sutton won the PGA Championship and was the tour money leader. 4 different players won the 4 Grand Slam events in tennis. For the women, though, this was Martina's run. She won 3 of the 4. She did not win the Grand Slam, though. Chrissy won the French. Martina won the other 3. Tom Sneva won at Indy. Cale Yarborough won Daytona. Nothing major soccer. Boxing, though, a couple interesting boxing notes before I pass the baton to Mr. Atherton for television. The IBF became a governing body. That's a big deal down the line. Because Michael Spinks would unify his world light heavyweight title with the WBC one, defeating Dwight Muhammad Kawhi by unanimous decision. On his 32nd birthday that year, Roberto Duran would become the 7th fighter to win 3 different divisions. He became the junior middleweight champion by beating Davey Moore. Hector Macho Camacho won his first of several world titles. And probably one of the greatest fights I'd ever watch took place on September 9th. I think it was on HBO, if I remember it. Johnny, I wonder if you remember this fight. Aaron Pryor and Alexis Arguello would meet for the WBA World Junior Welterweight title, and that was a war. I loved watching the smaller guys fight. Junior, light heavyweights, middleweights. Those guys punched more. Heavyweights used to just hug. I enjoyed watching the smaller guys fight. And that was an amazing fight. Speaking of great middleweights.
Yeah, it's one of the classics. They have it on, they rerun an ESPN Classic a lot.
Yeah, it's a tremendous fight. And then, of course, there was the big rumor that Aaron Pryor had sugar in his water or some kind of, some type of amphetamine or something. It was a big controversy for years to come. But
yeah, they beat each other both so bad they both retired after the fight.
Yep, they did, and they were both tremendous fighters. And Marvin Hagler beat Roberto Duran in Vegas to retain his world middleweight title. So, boxing will get better, I think, as we move on through the decade, particularly in the heavyweight division when a certain guy starts to move up the ranks, if you know who I'm talking about. That's it for sports in 1983. Let us move now to the Boob Tube. 1983 in television. Mr. Atherton, floor's yours.
Thank you, sir. So looking at the top-rated programs of the 1983-84 TV season, we had Dallas leading the way, followed by 60 Minutes, Dynasty, The A-Team, Simon and Simon, a great underrated show, Magnum P.I., Falcon Crest, Kate and Alley, a very funny sitcom, Hotel, and Cagney and Lacey, rounding out the top 10. Some of the TV shows that ended in 1983, we had The Greatest American Hero, had a few-year run, probably one of the greatest and most watched series finales of all time. I don't know if it actually has been touched this year yet. MASH, which is titled, let me find my note here.
Goodbye, Amen.
Mm-hmm. It was known as Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. More than 125 million Americans. It was the 251st episode of the show. I remember that being such a big deal. I remember going to church and them announcing during, the church announcements that if anybody missed the series finale of MASH, we have taped it, and it is available in the church rectory.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, kind of a cool church at the time. Your guys' show, Little House on the Prairie, says goodbye that year. Gloria, Laverne and Shirley, after a tremendous run. What'd you guys think of Laverne and Shirley? Were you guys big Laverne and Shirley fans?
Yeah, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was better than Happy
I know
Days.
Scott does. I know Scott likes it better than Happy Days.
What about, though, when they moved to California? What do you think happened? Did you think the show got better, the same, went down?
The first season of In California wasn't bad. After that, then it kind of got, what do you say? Jumped the shark, I guess.
Yeah, it got a little ridiculous.
I liked. I'll be honest. I liked one thing. I liked about Laverne and Shirley was it had that. I loved them being in Milwaukee. I loved them working at the brewery and
Shots,
like the grittiness of their apartment and the bowling alley and the pizza place and all. I liked the grittiness of just down home, middle America kind of thing. And I get that they probably needed to shine up the show a little bit, but it didn't have the same substance, I thought, when they moved. So I agree with G. I think they did jump the shark. But, I've said this many times to G in just conversations. I'll argue, and I'm not slamming Happy Days by any stretch. It's Happy Days. But I'll argue that I think I would put up all of Happy Days spinoffs up against them any day of the week, except maybe Joni Loves Chachi. But that was a good show, too.
Which
sounds special.
Also ended in 1983.
After what, like a month?
Yeah. I was going to do a great debate topic. Better show with loves in the title. Joni Loves Chachi or Everybody Loves Raymond? I think that would be a landslide.
Oh, please. That's like a 2-minute show.
Chips also ended that year, as well as Taxi. Love that show.
Love Taxi. Love Taxi.
Me too.
Reverend Jim and Laka and everybody. Quincy, Medical Examiner. Square Pegs.
Quincy.
Square Pegs, funny story. I am a member of the Emmy Academy, the Television Academy, and they have events sometimes. And I went to an event with my girlfriend Ellen. We went to see Divorce, the HBO show. And Sarah Jessica Parker was there. And actually, after the panel, I excused myself to go to the bathroom. And I come back. She's like, "You just missed. I took a picture with Sarah Jessica Parker." I said, "Really? What'd you say?" She goes, "I love John Square Pegs."
I'll get a high five for that.
Which she doesn't. I bet you she doesn't get that very often. Everybody probably says, "Oh my God, Carrie Bradshaw, whatever." So also ending that year, Father Murphy, Archie Bunker's Place, and The Incredible Hulk.
Good shows ended.
Yeah, premiering that year though, Fraggle Rock.
Yes.
Let's chat about the Fraggles for a minute. It debuted on HBO as one of the premium cable network's first original programs during January of 1983. It was created and produced by Jim Henson. It focused on the interactions between a group of Muppets called Fraggles and the other groups, the Dozers and Gorgs, within their world. Many of the episodes featured stories that revolved around conflicts between the Fraggles and the other groups, despite the fact they all depend on each other to survive. Had a total of 96 episodes and ran until 1987. The show's creator hoped it would provide concepts of world peace, and it was shown around the world in nearly 100 different countries. I love Fraggle Rock. I'm a huge anything Jim Henson does for the most part, but this had such a theme song. Do 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 do. I mean, Gobo was the man. A lot of people love Uncle Traveling Matt because funny voice and he would interact with the silly creatures in our world. But you had Sprocket the dog and the Gorgs Jr. and the Dozers and my best friend. We sometimes will have in-depth conversations late at night years ago, and we would talk about it. And his favorite was the Trash Heap. Hello, boys. What can I do for you? Oh, Marjorie. So, you guys? I assume you guys watch Fraggle Rock a lot.
Yes, I did religiously.
Mm-hmm. I think I have them all on DVD actually. So,
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Tremendous. Yeah, Wembley, Moki, Boober, Red, all of them. Tremendous characters.
Look, Ma, I caught a Fraggle. Oh, it's a great show. It's a great show.
Mama's Family also debuted that year.
My mom liked that show.
It was very funny. Star Search, which launched many careers. People like Sinbad and other people were on that show. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Tremendous cartoon back in the 80s.
Yep. I have that on my wall. I have that on my shelf. I have the whole series. Great show. Great cartoon.
Yes, something that they cannot translate to a movie, though, these days. They think they did one with Dolph Lundgren, I think, as He-Man.
They did. It's terrible. It was terrible. Because they did it when the show ended, when nobody cared anymore. Had they did it now, or maybe like a year later, maybe they'd have gotten away with it. But by the time they did it, the show was like on its last legs. So
yeah, We Got It Made premiered. Webster, which was it's funny. A lot of people considered it a sort of a Different Strokes clone. Love Connection, very famous. We'll be back in 2 and 2, and How Did the Date Go, kind of things. Wheel of Fortune, Hotel, Aftermath, the spinoff, which didn't last very long, thank God. Oh, Madeline, starring the great Madeline Kahn. Here's a show that had an interesting concept, Manimal.
Yes, with Simon McCorkindale.
Yes.
I remember Man.
Who we chat about on a show that I will talk about when we do the live read. We talked about him, and we talked about that show a little bit. That was an interesting show. I did watch it. I remember he would he would turn into, he had the ability to turn into any animal, I think, and he would pick it based on the ability he needed to fight the crime or solve the crime or something, as far as I can remember. And then we had Scarecrow and Mrs. King, which was Kate Jackson's follow-up to Charlie's Angels. And it was a good year for miniseries as well, and made-for-TV movies. We had The Winds of War in February of that year, The Thornbirds in March. Here's the thing that I loved and also scared me as a 10-year-old, which was V.
I love V. V was awesome.
Yes. Especially
Mike Donovan was Mark Singer. That was great.
Yes. And you had Michael Ironside, and you had, especially when they would like rip off the skin and reveal the lizards underneath.
Yes.
And then they would have that red powder. That red powder would kill them or whatever. And then you had Robert Englund he was Willie. That was pre Nightmare on Elm
Freddy.
Street. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And November.
Yeah, and one of the chicks got pregnant and made a V baby.
Had twins.
Oh
yeah.
God, it was gross too.
Yeah, it had the one baby that looked human, and it had the other baby that was a lizard, and that died in birth. But then later on, you saw like the baby that was human cry, and like a lizard tongue came out, and that was like the cliffhanger.
Yep.
I remember that a lot. Yeah, because it came back as a bigger, more expanded series, I think. It was still a mini-series, but it wasn't anything. And then our Saturday morning cartoons, we had The Best of Scooby-Doo, the Monchichis, which are freaky-looking things, Pac-Man, Rubik, The Amazing Cube Hour, The Littles, Shirt Tales, Smurfs were big back then, Mr. T had a cartoon, Thundar the Barbarian with Ookla the Muck, as we probably mentioned before, the Saturday Supercade. Here's another great show, Dungeons and Dragons, featuring Willie Ames and Don Most, I think, were some of the voices, where they go on a ride in an amusement park, and they end up in the world of Dungeons and Dragons somehow. Bugs and Daffy was still hanging on, as well as Benji. And then moving on to one of our favorite shows, SNL Season 9, which Jim Belushi joined the cast that year, and Eddie Murphy leaves during later on February 25th of 1984. But on November 5th, Eddie Murphy performs one of SNL's most iconic sketches, James Brown's Celebrity Hot Tub Party.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, here he is, James Brown, hot tub. Ow! Can I get in the water? Will it make me wet? Yes. Will. Yeah, it's one of the greatest sketches of all time. Lots of great guests that year. Tremendous. It's so funny. If you want to see a microcosm of how the music industry was, just look at the SNL musical guests.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I agree.
This is a who's who of 1983. I mean,
80s bangers.
Yeah.
80s bangers as the guests. You got
John Cougar.
John Cougar, Men at Work, Stray Cats. Loverboy, Huey Lewis in the News, Stevie Nicks, Billy Idol, Adam Ant. This is just a microcosm of the 80s right here. Madness, tremendous.
And some of our regular guest hosts here, Brandon Tartikoff, the president of NBC. You had then married Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman, the great John Candy, Terry Garr, very hachi-machi back then. Jerry Lewis. Here they went on a tremendous run of some legends. They had Jerry Lewis, the Smothers Brothers, Flip Wilson
yeah.
and Don Rickles within a few episodes of all each other. Mm-hmm. First time ever a fictional
character. And then
character.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, that's right. He was still kind of starting out. But first time ever they had a fictional character host the show, Father Guido Sarducci.
I love Father Guido Sarducci. It was awesome.
Played by Don Novello, Jamie Lee Curtis, Edwin Newman, Billy Crystal, right a year or so before he joined the cast. Barry Bostwick, and Betty Thomas, amongst others. On your Primetime Emmy Awards that year, on September 25th, it was hosted by Eddie Murphy and Joan Rivers. Your outstanding comedy series was Cheers, which made quite the comeback, because I believe the year before they were like the last ranked show in its first season. Hill Street Blues, repeated as your outstanding drama series. Your outstanding, something we're going to talk about a little more in depth, your outstanding comedy, variety, or music program, Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, and Forever, which has one very famous moment, which we will, like I said, discuss. Your outstanding drama special was Special Bulletin. And in terms of your actors, in your comedy, on your lead actor was Judd Hirsch from Taxi, Shelley Long for Cheers. Your supporting actor was Christopher Lloyd, and supporting actress Carol Kane, both for Cheers. On the drama side, you had Ed Flanders from St. Elsewhere as your lead actor, Tyne Daly of Cagney and Lacey as your lead actress, and both for St. Elsewhere on a short run, James Coco and Doris Roberts for your best supporting actor and actress. Then we had some notes from that year. Soul Train goes on a brief hiatus due to Don Cornelius having brain surgery, and it returns after he comes back from his convalescence. Here you go. You guys, everybody watches Price is Right at some point in their life. On January 3rd, Plinko is added as a pricing game on that show, which is probably one of the most popular show games to this date. What are some of your guys' favorite games on The Price is Right? I was a big fan of I think it was called the Cliffhanger or something like that, where the guy would go up the hill and you hear that yodeling, yodi yodi yodi. I'll try not to.
Yes, that was.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That's my favorite
one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Then you
dog spayed or your pet spayed or neutered.
Yes, you had all those a lot of fun. It was a tremendous show. Another one of my favorite game shows, which actually had the home edition, which was so much fun, the Sale of the Century. Because it had a buzzer that had like 6 different things, so you always knew who buzzed in, which was was always a good part. On February 5th, a very special 2-part episode. The first part airs of Different Strokes, known as The Bicycle Man, which Arnold and Dudley encounter a pedophile played by the great Gordon Jump, in which Dudley is molested, and it is notable for starting a trend of very special episodes. Do you guys remember seeing that episode? And
oh yeah,
it was brutal.
Who didn't?
Yeah,
I didn't like seeing Art Carlson as a pervert. It was really upsetting.
Poor Dudley tried to get him to take a bath with him.
They were gonna play Neptune. I like the fact they were drinking wine, eating pie, and watching porn cartoons. It's like the greatest thing ever. Not really, but
no.
Here, Dudley, have some wine. Here, guys, watch these naked cats.
Arnold was kind of a shitty friend because he knew what's up, but he left Dudley behind.
Yeah, he's like, I'm out of here. You can get played with in the shower all you want. I'm going home. It's like
Dudley always got the short end of the stick in a lot of episodes of Different Strokes. Actually,
Christ, Dudley's dad was a big motherfucker. I thought he'd kick the shit out of fucking Mr. R. Carlson. Mm-hmm. I can't find my son. He had that big mustache. I thought he was gonna fucking kill the guy. Yeah. He was tougher than
Philip
Mr. Drummond. So yeah, he was tougher than Philip Drummond. Let's go play Neptune.
Although Mrs. Garrett would have fucked him up.
Thinking about this gives me the creeps.
And then also in March, back to back, a couple of networks launched. CMT begins on March 6th, and the Nashville Network, which later became the National Network, and then Spike TV, and it's now known as the Paramount Network, began broadcasting. Different Strokes again kind of made news. On March 19th, the First Lady of the United States, Nancy Reagan, made a special appearance on episode beginning her Just Say No anti-drug campaign. On April 18th, the Disney Channel is initiated on cable television. Now, going back to that Motown 25 special, after a performance of the Jackson 5, it was the centerpiece, Michael Jackson performed Billie Jean and does the Moonwalk for the first time on television. Now, this blew everybody's minds. It's like, I remember going to school after that, and everybody was like trying to figure out how the hell he did it, because we had never seen a dance move like that at all. What'd you guys think when Michael broke out the Moonwalk?
Well, it's the second time in his life that he did that, because a few years earlier he did the robot on Soul Train, and that was insane. And everybody was watching that Motown special. That was the thing to watch that day, or that night. And yeah, that was fucked up.
Everybody was sitting there trying to do the Moonwalk.
Oh yeah, none of us.
Oh yeah, everybody tried it. Everybody tried doing that
on themselves. Yeah, no, it was a mess.
Not a lot of people could do it great. Nearly.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Mm-hmm. Then also on June 16th, Pope John Paul II arrived in his native Poland, with ABC and NBC broadcasting his arrival live. CBS, which was hampered by budget reductions of its news division, broadcast The Price is Right instead. That's not the last time CBS has a faux pas with news coverage. I remember when Princess Diana passed away. It was late at night. They just were one of the only networks that didn't break to the breaking story. They just kept airing wrestling. I remember it being on in the bar.
All right. Mm-hmm. What's more important?
Here we go. Another controversial incident on television. September 5th, during the first half of a broadcast of Monday Night Football between the Dallas Cowboys and Washington Redskins, Howard Cosell refers to Washington wide receiver Alvin Garrett as we'll say a racial slur. I don't want to say it on the air. Cosell's remarks immediately ignites a racial controversy and plays a key factor in his departure from the Monday Night Football booth following the 1983 NFL season, which ends a tremendous run, unceremoniously or unfortunately, that it had to end like that, because Howard is probably one of the, most famous voices you'll ever hear on a broadcast because of his unique cadence and way he would say things. And then on September 12th... Good riddance. What was it? Good riddance, yeah. Because not the best human being, but...
Fuck him.
Quite a voice. September 12th, the animated G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero miniseries based on the toys of the same name debuts in syndication. Another miniseries airs the following year with an ongoing show premiering in 1985, which we'll get more into when we get there. All right, here we go. Did you guys watch this? An estimated 100 million people watched the controversial made-for-TV movie on November 20th, the day after on ABC.
I've never seen that.
I did. Scared the shit out of me.
My mom and dad never. I could watch whatever I wanted. Every blood, guts, everything. They didn't let me watch that. I don't understand. I mean, I could watch any movie, anything. They never cared, but they would not let me watch that. So till this day, I've never seen it.
I don't think I've ever seen it either. I remember not being allowed to watch it and hearing somebody at school say, "Yeah, cow vaporized" or something. That was all I know about that movie.
Yeah, no, I watched it. It was very unnerving. It was very unnerving.
Especially at the age we were then.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then we talked about this a little bit on the last episode when we went over the deaths, but on November 24th, Sesame Street on PBS dealt with the sensitive issue of death when Big Bird learned the concept as it relates to his late friend, Mr. Hooper. Will Lee, the actor, had died previous year. And then on November 24th, Jim Crockett Productions produces the inaugural Starrcade event on closed-circuit television around the southern United States, predating the World Wrestling Federation, later WWE's first WrestleMania event by 2 years. Starrcade would soon become Jim Crockett Promotions and later World Championship Wrestling's premier flagship event. You guys, now we're all wrestling fans. Did any of you guys watch the inaugural Starrcade when it happened?
No. I was only a wrestling fan for 6 months at that point. I didn't watch it.
I did not. I don't even... I might have had the capabilities of getting it, but no.
Johnny, could we have gotten it up here in the Northeast? Could we be able to gotten it?
I doubt any. It was a closed circuit only, and I doubt any closed circuit place around here showed it.
Yeah, the first time I ever watched the main event, the Harley Flair cage match, was on the PWI Lord of the Rings, Lords of the Ring tape that I rented. That was the first time I ever watched.
I remember it. I remember it being such a big deal because obviously I was watching, but I didn't see it live. No,
I didn't watch it in full till a few years later.
Yeah. Well, so that's going to bring an end to television, and that's going to bring an end to the first half of the Year in Pop 1983. But we're not done. In the second half, we're going to talk about the news, music, and movies of that year. So, with Scott Criscuolo, J. Arsenio D'Amato, and the Doctor, Dr. G. George Ribellino, I'm Andy Atherton. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Worries for another day. Let the music play. Down in Fraggle Rock. Down in Fraggle Rock.
Down in Fraggle Rock.
Welcome back to the Year in Pop 1983 here on the Place to Be Nation feed. Scott Criscuolo, Andy Atherton, J. Arsenio D'Amato, and the Doctor, Dr. G. George Ribellino. We are halfway home. We still got great topics to discuss, some news points, some amazing albums and songs in 1983, and of course, some amazing movies in 1983. Before we do that, let's talk about some of the things going on the Place to Be Nation Pop feed. Mr. Atherton, what do we got?
All right. On the latest episode of The Great Debate, I was joined by Sean Kidd, Matt Souza, and Scott Shiflett. We discussed and debated a variety of pop culture topics. We were sans sports, since we are sans sports right now in the world, unfortunately, with the current situation. Derek Cornett stopped by Laughing Theater. He joined me to watch the classic baseball comedy Major League. Tremendous watch. One thing we discovered, no movie uses the word fuck better, I think, than Major League. One of our big talking points. As well as we're doing Laughing Theater specials. Those are our group watches on that series. I was joined by Jennifer Smith and Grooney, James Grunberg. We watched 2000 Scary Movie. The latest, it was a thing on TV. The trio looked at Break the Bank and the game show finales of June 20th, 1980, as well as the David Letterman Show. On Diamond Conversations, which has been, pun intended, knocking it out of the park lately with their guests. The latest episode welcomed former MLB pitcher Mark Leiter for a discussion with Chad. And the newest show to join the pop feed, Blockbuster Rewind. And there's a new show that I am one of the co-host, whatever, along with Scott Shiflett and Eric Eels. We are joined by the great Tim Capel, and we discussed the first Blockbuster, Jaws, and its sequels. I am very excited about this new show. Looking forward to it. We're going to do it monthly, and each month we're going to kind of do a theme or look at a trilogy or whatever of movies, blockbusters, always blockbusters. No little indie films on this show or dramas, really. We're going right for the popcorn and tentpoles. So please check it out. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm very excited. We have new voices on this show, and I think it's going to be really great. Don't forget to check out the wrestling feed, though, which includes a dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE through yesteryear. It includes The Mothership, which Scott is the co-host of, the Place to Be podcast, The Main Event, another show co-hosted by Scott along with Nate and Steve, Jenny and the Gems, the game show Body Press Your Luck, PTB NXT, the NWA Saturday Special, which is Scott and the Doctor, and much more. So subscribe today. While you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well. The home of Geek and Sassy, Talking Pop, Freak Out Drive-In, The Journey Through Infinity, Telling Stories, and much, much more. Also, check out the North-South Connection, brought to you by JT Rosero, Chad Campbell, and Aaron George. It's the home for Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, The Extreme Three-Way Dance, the Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, Caroline the Dreaming, and Jeff Learns Wrestling, much, much more. Don't forget, check out social media pages. The Greatest Song for a Movie tournament is starting. It was starting a few days after this episode posts. So, guys, you have any picks Any predictions on what you can see? Because I think, granted, I haven't been with Place to Be Nation as long as all of you guys have, but we've been doing regular tournaments. I think this is probably the widest variety, or probably the not very predictable, I think, tournament that we've had to date. If you guys, I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I think this is hard to handicap. I mean, I know there are songs that are going to go far, but what do you guys? What songs do you guys see going pretty far in this tournament?
Oh, that's tough.
Anything from Purple Rain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think this is how the voting, I think, tendencies will go. People will vote based on how much they like the song. First of all, second, I hope, which is my main criteria, is going to be the influence or the scene. Like if I hear the song, if it makes me think of the scene in the movie, if it's synonymous with the soundtrack or a particular part of the movie, or there's a lot of Disney songs in there, so it may hit the nostalgia, or people may just be like, oh, last thing I heard that was big is Shallow. I'm going to vote for that. Who do you think, Johnny? You got any songs you want to see win the tournament?
Yes, I'm gonna be partial to the '80s stuff, like "Don't You Forget About Me" from the
tremendous song.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That'll be my pick. I don't know how it's aged. It's gonna be interesting to find out whether a great example, like something like "Shallow," like you said, from a newer flick, or something from our old school generation. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the results, man. I'm not gonna get too emotional if a favorite or whatever wins, and or if something I don't like goes further. It's just enjoy the journey, like we do with all these tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really what it's about. It's about the discussions. At the end of the day, who cares really who wins this tournament? It's just us having fun and trying to build a community around it. Try to attract more people in to kind of find out what we're about.
Exactly.
Nation, and it's just all about fun and love and all that stuff. What I think could be funny is a song like "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone, older song, but featured in a movie that's not that old, Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that song is in, like Hooked on a Feeling. Like, I had debated whether we're going to put it in under Guardians of the Galaxy or Reservoir Dogs. So, hopefully the great soundtracks get the love. That's really my hope. Footloose, Top Gun, Saturday Night Fever, Grease, Dirty Dancing, like the really great soundtracks. This is their time to shine. All right. So, also, don't forget. Go ahead, Scott.
The two you talked about two scenes. Like when you talked about songs from a scene, the two scenes that will always be probably two of my favorite pop songs that were in a movie. Not necessarily soundtracks, because these are songs that were great songs anyway. I'm looking at one of the posters on my wall, and that's Layla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As they're pulling Frankie Carbone out of the meat locker, out of the meat truck. Took 2 days to throw him out.
Frenchie
and what's his name? Who's the fucking jerk off that bought the pink Cadillac? Him and his stupid fucking Gumad.
Johnny Roast Beef, or whatever the hell's name is.
Johnny Roast Beef. Yeah, Johnny Roast Beef, and him and his fucking stupid Gumad are dead in the fucking Cadillac.
I love that car. I love that car.
What, are you stupid? What are you fucking stupid or what? What are you stupid or what?
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
What did I think I've heard Dr. G say that. I think I've heard you say that. What did I tell you?
What did I tell you?
And then the other scene, of course, is Tiny Dancer when they're on the tour bus in Almost Famous. Mm-hmm. That's always one of my favorites. I sang it twice in the theater. I think I got shit thrown at me, but whatever. Who cares?
Yeah,
so yeah, I agree with Johnny.
How about Rocky IV? No Easy Way Out.
No Easy Way Out. How about anything from Rocky? Eye of the Tiger. Oh man, that's true. Yeah. So I'm like Johnny. I have no dog in the fight. I mean, I have favorites. I have ones that I'd like to see go far, but the only thing that I've said to you, and then we'll get back to the show. I know we're kind of belaboring this, but is I always thought that the Disney songs should have had their own tournament, because I feel like Disney may dominate it when it really shouldn't, but it's too late now. But I hope the other songs get a fair fight and Disney doesn't dominate it. That's all I'm hoping for.
No,
and I love Disney, but I think Disney should have had it. I probably should have said that Disney should have had its own tournament.
I think it's spread out enough. I mean, there's 512 songs. So I think there may be some, like Whole New World, Be Our Guest, Beauty and the Beast, maybe something from Little Mermaid or something. Those could go far, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be, Time of Your Life, Footloose, I'm All Right, Shout. The songs that we've named the regions after, like, Summer Nights or You're the One I Want, whatever from Greece. I think those are just going to be the ones that are just going to hopefully rise to the top. And, it'll be interesting either way, though. So we'll see. I mean, look, you never knew that, you never thought, Paradise City would win the last music tournament. But it did.
True.
And I don't think anybody would be mad.
Not Paradise City, Sweet Child won the
Sweet Child of Mine, I'm sorry. Sweet Child of Mine.
Sweet Child.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody would be upset if, like, Part of Your World or something, or not Part of Your World. Yeah, something like that wins. I think they're timeless. That's the thing. They may be important to you at one part of your life, and then, when you're a kid, and then you become, a teenager, and then once you have kids again, it becomes important again because you'll hear it all the time, incessantly. But anyway, talk about what else is going on here. We have officially kicked off our 2020 stretch project, determining the greatest WCW match ever. You have all year to do your research, promote matches, and build your list. Conversation rules can be found on Facebook. Just look up GWCW matches or on the Pro Wrestling Only message board. Don't forget, check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. New voices, fresh takes, bringing you articles and topics of the world of wrestling and sports and pop culture, including Trent's SmackDown Fox Report, This Week in WWE by John Crow, Steve Riddle's Wonderful World of Disney Reviews, Paulie's Perspective, Matt Rotella's live action Disney movie reviews, Ben's Unpopular Opinion, and don't forget about veteran columns like Glenn Butler's Wednesday Walk Around the Web. And doing online shopping over at Amazon.com. Be sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the Place to Be Nation homepage or use PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon. It takes you right to Amazon and helps out PTBN with no cost to you. So, back to 1983. And we're going to go into the news segment before we move on to music. So, the United States invaded Grenada on November 25th of 1983. Over 5,000 Marines were sent to the island after the government was overthrown in a bloody coup by a Cuban-trained military force, not musical force. At the time, there were about 1,000 United States civilians in the country, most of them medical students. President Reagan ordered the invasion, citing the need to protect the American citizens in the country, but also using it as a motivator to stem the tide of communism in the Caribbean. Overall, the invasion was a success despite encountering resistance. The U.S. civilians were all rescued, the Cuban troops surrendered, and there were only about 19 U.S. troops casualties in total. That was like, it was kind of like, like a big giant, like picture like Marco's stunt going up against the Big Show kind of thing. It's like, get out of here, kid. You're bothering me. Let's just go take care of this. I've actually been to Grenada. It's beautiful. And then the NASA STS-7 mission was completed successfully during June. The mission carried 5 astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger. On a 6-day flight, the crew carried out several experiments and deployed 2 satellites. This mission was notable that it was Sally Ride's first space flight, making her the first American woman in space. 20 years earlier, the Soviet Union had already sent the first woman in space with Valentina Tereshkova aboard Vostok 6 in 1963. Then also that year, President Ronald Reagan proposed the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI. It was during a televised address in March that year. It was highly advanced system that relied on technology that had not yet been developed to intercept and prevent a nuclear missile attack on the U.S. by the Soviet Union. The plan was called Star Wars by many critics who thought it was impossible to create with the restriction of the capabilities of the technology during the decade. It began development in the following year under the Department of Defense, but its funding ended after the Cold War ended and before anything could be completed. So it was much ado about nothing. The Civil War had broken out in Zimbabwe. A terrorist attack by a suicide bomber at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut killed 63 people. The whole U.S. Ethiopia appeals thing began with the World Aid where the death toll reached 4 million in that country due to starvation. And the Philippines opposition leader Benigno Aquino was assassinated that year. And Margaret Thatcher wins a landslide victory in the general elections in the UK. So, that's going to bring me into our news segment. And on to music for a tremendous year in terms of singles and albums. And Scott, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. We will begin, of course, as we always do, with the top 100 singles of 1983. We won't do all 100, of course, but we will do the top 20. Dr. G's going to sing all 100 songs right now. And no. Here's the top 20.
Stay listening, don't you?
We'll do the top 20. We'll do the top 20 songs, and then we'll point out some highlighted ones for the rest of the list. At number 20, I Know There's Something Going On by Frida. Frida, of course, was the redhead / brunette in ABBA, not the hot blonde, but the kind of cougarish looking brunette. Number 19, one of my favorite driving songs ever, and Dr. G's been in the car when I've turned this song. Johnny, I think you've been in the car. We've driven to pay-per-views. I think I've turned this song up. Twilight Zone by Golden Earring. Golden Earring has the two greatest driving songs ever. Twilight Zone and fucking Radar Love. I blast those bitches when I'm in my car. I love Twilight Zone. Love that song. Number 9. The video made a video I didn't understand, but the song is awesome. Number 18, Let's Dance by Bowie. Because Bowie, Johnny, did you understand you probably did, right? I had no idea what the hell was. I think he was a spy or something in the video, something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Number 18, Let's Dance by David Bowie. Number 17, Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. Of course, a great album from that song was on. We'll get into the albums shortly. Number 16 was Never Gonna Let You Go by Sergio Mendes. That was on many of Dr. G's mixtapes. I love you, one thing you're gonna be sure of. Anyway, number 15, She Works Hard for the Money by Donna Summer. Probably her first big hit post-disco. Number 14, Shame on the Moon by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. That's a great cut. Number 13, the probably the best of the one-hit wonders, like the real unheralded one-hit wonders, Come On Eileen by Dexy's Midnight Runners, which kind of broke up Michael Jackson's dominance at the top of the charts throughout '83. Number 12, You and I, nice duet by Eddie Rabbitt and Crystal Gale, one of many country pop crossovers in the early '80s. Number 11, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me by Culture Club, as they were bursting onto the scene. Your top 10, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by the Eurythmics at number 10. At number 9, Maniac by Michael Sembello. There's a song, Andy, that could be in the tournament.
It is.
Of course, it's from the Flashdance soundtrack. Number 8, Baby Come to Me by Patty Austin and James Ingram. What a song. Baby, come to me. Let me put... That's a great song. Number 7, Man Eater by Hall & Oates, which is also a great song. Number 6, this song reminds me of Chris Jericho and George Lopez when they did it on I think it was George Lopez show together. Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. Here's your top 5, and these are all fucking heavyweights right here. Number 5, Beat It, Michael Jackson. Number 4, Down Under by Men at Work from Business as Usual. Number 3, Flashdance, What a Feeling by Irene Cara. Another song, Andy, that should be in the tournament. I'm sure it is. And number 2, Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. And the number 1 song on the Billboard charts for the year ending 1983. You could not avoid this song if you tried on the radio in 1983. Every Breath You Take by The Police. It's one of Dr. G's favorite songs. Right up there with Hotel California.
So overplayed, I can't take that.
Isn't it amazing, guys, the year that Michael Jackson had, and neither of the two big songs was number 1 at the end of the year. I'm still flabbergasted by that, to be honest with you.
It's still quite a feat to get 2 in the top 5.
Oh, there's no doubt. This
is a killer year for top 40 radio.
Mm-hmm.
It really was.
Yeah, these are some iconic hits that you just ran down, like stuff like Safety Dance, Men Without Hats, a lot of one-hit wonders, but
solid
still songs that people know about today that are still widely played today.
And a lot of the songs that get stuck in your head because they're that catchy. Some other ones in the top 100. Eddie Grant with Electric Avenue, another one. Thomas Dolby, she blinded me with science.
Science. Yes.
Africa by Toto.
Yeah, Yacht Rock.
Or as Dr. G's daughter's boyfriend thought it was, Africa, Toto by the band Africa. He got confused. He's a 2020 teenager. What do you want? Little Red Corvette by Prince, because 1999 was a great album. Up Where We Belong. That'll be in the tournament, Andy, from Officer and a Gentleman. Domoro Gato, Mr. Roboto by Styx. Here's Back to Back. You want to talk about 2 songs that get stuck in your head. Der Kommissar by After the Fire. Cha! Cha!
Don't turn around.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to sit on the top of one of those double-decker buses, only because they sang it on the top of the bus, and that was pretty fucking cool. Taco with Putting on the Ritz. Little did I realize.
Well, that was a weird fucking video that was.
Yeah, it was. Unbelievable song, and sadly would be his last hit. We'll talk about him in 1984. Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye, because Marvin was fucking awesome. We'll talk about a guy that got, in immortal words of the great Brad Woodling, he got a lot of trim. At number, let's see, at number Mickey, Tony Basil, You Can't Hurry Love, Phil Collins. We talked about Journey and the Frontiers album, Separate Ways, Worlds Apart, at number 38. Terrible video, but a great song. 101 by Hall & Oates. 101, I want to play that game. Look at 43 and 45.
I
right
thought we
there.
wanted to keep the listeners here.
Come on, you want to sing some 101 with? Come on. Hall & Oates right there. I'll be Oates because I have the mustache. You could be Hall because, well, you don't have your mullet anymore. Anyway, at number 43, how about this? At 43 and 45, this guy gets 2 songs in the top 50 from 2 different albums. That's pretty impressive. Billy Joel at 43 with Allentown from the outgoing album, Nylon Curtain, which came out in 82, and Tell Her About It, which came out from the new album.
Innocent Man did better in 84, I think. Because it
we're gonna
came
talk
out towards the end of 83.
We'll talk about it. Yep. No, you're right. It definitely did. Because Uptown Girl didn't come out, didn't really, even though it came out in September of 83, I don't think it hit the charts until 84 either. Another one-hit wonder, Something Always Something There to Remind Me by Naked Eyes. I had that 45.
Well, they had that other song, Promises, which was okay.
I love that song. Another great song from Thriller, The Girl Is Mine, Michael and Paul McCartney. Here's another one-hit wonder. Johnny loved this one, a little Kajagoogoo with Too Shy. Too shy, hush, hush, I do I. Probably my favorite and unappreciated Men at Work cut, Overkill, at number 54. I think that's Men at Work's best song, to be quite honest with you. That's my
Great.
I would recommend the Colin Hay acoustic version of that song. Tremendous.
Yes, I've heard it. It is very good. You're absolutely right. She's a Beauty by the Tubes. That song is amazing. It's my favorite stripper song.
Awesome opening riffs.
Yes, I agree. Solitaire by Laura Branigan.
She had a tremendous year.
Yeah, we don't care about stupid Gloria song.
Yeah, no, Glory was the year before. That's the greatest song of all time.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Well, she had Solitaire, and I think she had 3 or 4 songs.
Fuck you. Yeah, she had a song at 61. China Girl by David Bowie. That's my favorite song off Let's Dance, China Girl. Mm-hmm. Come Dancing by the Kinks. They were typical 60s band, and they had like a big 80s hit with that one. Oh, God. Other stuff here. Oh, Jesus.
I'm Still Standing, Elton.
Yes, Elton coming back. Stepping Out, Joe Jackson. That song is awesome. I love Stepping Out.
Yeah.
Faithfully. Dr. G, probably, I'm surprised he's still my friend, because the first 2 years I met him, that's all I ever played in the car was Faithfully. Hates my guts now.
Yeah, because you did those high notes so good.
I do. Human Nature, probably my favorite song off Thriller. Human Nature by Michael at number 89. Here we go. Big PTB song here. Pass the Dutchie. Pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side. By music. How did a bunch of 11-year-olds smoking weed? That's what it is. What were they, like 7? A bunch of 8-year-olds talking about passing weed around. It's amazing.
Well, it was Britain, so they were different laws.
Here's one of Dr. G's favorite guys, Frank Stallone with Far From Over from that amazing movie Staying Alive.
Yes.
Breaking Us in Two, by the way, by Joe Jackson, another great single. Good songs on the top one.
by Tom Petty, tremendous video.
Yes, the old video games, awesome. So there were the singles. Let's take a look at the albums. So these are not ranked, by the way. We're just firing albums out. Some of the best albums that came out in 1983. This one is a big one because it kind of opened up the world to like college radio, which Dr. G and I knew very well when we were in college. Murmur by R.E.M. You may not know much about it at the moment, but it was kind of a motivator for them to get out of, to start down in Georgia and Athens at UGA, and they would obviously evolve over the rest of the decade into an amazing killer band. Synchronicity, of course, which the number 1 song in the country came from. War by U2. Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual. We didn't hear many of those songs because they all were big in 82. Eliminator by ZZ Top. I always wanted the keychain. Pyromania. Pyromania is like one of those like iconic albums, right? Did everybody here have Pyromania, at least on cassette or vinyl?
I have it on vinyl still.
Do you?
Wow.
Johnny? A little vinyl
Yes.
action for Pyromania?
Probably cassette. Yeah.
Probably cassette. Dr. G, did you fire up some Pyromania back in the day?
Oh yeah, cassette.
What's the best song? Foolin'? Rock of Ages? Pyromania.
Rock of Ages, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a
Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages guy.
Oh, Todd Eaton, Loud and Glowing.
Although I do like the beginning of Foolin' where they little acoustic guitar and then it switches over to the electric.
Yes, I agree with you, actually. I agree with you on that. Piece of Mind by Iron Maiden. I mentioned that only because that was the follow-up to their awesome Number of the Beast album. My brother... You got to understand, guys. I grew... I shared a room with a 80s teenager who was a metalhead, so I heard some very interesting music when I was between the ages of 9 and 17, based on my brother. Let's see. Madonna's first album came out in 83. Again, I mentioned Let's Dance by Bowie. Here we are. And yes, sadly, the streak will break after this because we probably won't really mention Billy much for the next couple of episodes. But in 1983, he released An Innocent Man. I got to be honest, Dr. G, and you and I have had this conversation. Guys, I'm curious your thoughts too. Not high on my Billy album list. Maybe it's because I'm not into that 50s doo-wop-y kind of sound. But this was never one of my total favorite Billy albums. Even though it's got a ton of good hits. Tell Her About It, Uptown Girl, Easy Money.
I remember when it came out because, I mean, the songs were always on the radio and people were into the song. So, like, Uptown Girl and Tell Her About It and all that. So I think at the time, I probably, it was popular for me at the time, but I think as time went on and I became a bigger fan and learned more about his music, it's probably not, it's definitely not even my top 5 of his albums, but there's a few songs I like, and I like in concert, like singing them live. So what do you think, Johnny? What do you think? Do you like some of the songs on the Innocent Man album?
It's not one of my favorites. You hit it right on the head when you go to see him in concert, and you prefer the songs from the other albums more. There's not really ones here that really get you going. When I've heard Uptown, I heard him do Uptown Girl about all 10, 15 times whatever I went to see him. So I'm good with that. I prefer the songs on his other albums have aged better.
Mm.
I love.
He didn't have Uptown Girl a lot on the. He didn't play. I mean, gee, you and I have seen him. You've seen him a zillion times. He didn't have Uptown Girl on his list for a while. Elton got him into it again because when they did their face-to-faces in the late '90s, right, Jay?
Yeah.
In the late '90s, early 2000s, Uptown Girl got back. I don't know about Tell Her. I wish he would do Tell Her About It more because I really like that song. But Uptown Girl got back into rotation on his playlists after him and Elton would do the face-to-faces.
Exactly. Yeah. He didn't do them when we first went to go see it. Yeah, so I mean, I like Innocent Man. I like the song Innocent Man. I think it's a good song live.
He can't play that anymore. Well, I mean, Crystal can help him now, but Billy can't hit those notes anymore. I'm sorry, Andy, you were going to say something?
No, I said for me as I'm a Billy fan. I'm not like you guys, but I don't go deep. I don't go deep with a lot of most music anyway. But I love Keeping the Faith. Tremendous video.
Yeah,
I love.
That's a great song live.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's one of those just fun. The whole audience sings along to the chorus with the hey, keeping the faith kind of thing.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's right. That's. Remember, Scotty, we were really excited that he added that into his list when he started touring in 2006. He started putting that back in the set.
No, I love Keep the Faith. That's a tremendous live song. But Easy Money is probably my favorite song. I like Leave a Tender Moment Alone. Well, Easy Money is a great movie too.
It's very underrated too, that song.
Yes. Trivia question. Gee, you're out on this one because you may know it. I'll ask Andy and Tomato. Do you guys know where Billy is sitting on the cover of the album? He's sitting on a stoop. Anybody know where the stoop is?
Well, 52nd
Any idea?
Street.
That's not a bad answer. That's the wall he's leaning on the cover of the album of that album. Yep. I'll ask you. Do you remember?
No.
142 Mercer Street, just north of the intersection of Mercer and Prince in Soho. And apparently this I can't believe G, you and I have never actually searched for these, but the steps still look like that. So you and I got to find them. If we ever care about going back into New York again. So anyway, Innocent Man came out in '83. Tremendous album. One band that made their debut album in 1983. The album was called Kill 'Em All, and of course the band I'm speaking of is Metallica with their debut album in 1983 with Kill 'Em All. It's more like an extended EP. I wouldn't even say it's really an album. I think it's only got like 5 songs on it or 6 songs on it. Color by Numbers, Culture Club. Of course, we heard some of the singles from that. Frontiers by Journey. Sports by Huey Lewis and the News. Sports is a tremendous album. So good. Top to bottom, so good. By John Cougar Mellencamp. Good album. 90125 by Yes, which has Owner of a Lonely Heart on it, which I think becomes a hit in 84. We talk about soundtracks. The soundtrack to Flashdance was big that year. Oh, Metal Health by Quiet Riot. Come On Feel the Noise was the first #1 metal song, and I think Metal Health was the first #1 metal album ever. So that's a big album that year. Cuts Like a Knife by Bryan Adams, one of his breakthrough album. Genesis with the album Genesis. Let's see. Rebel Yell by Billy Idol. Good album. Let's see. Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue came out in '83. That's a tremendous
album.
Tremendous album, Shout at the Devil. Bark at the Moon by Ozzy. Another great album. Principle of Moments by Robert Plant. Solo album. Was exceptional. Let's see. Eddie and the Cruisers. Oh, On the Dark Side. Mm-hmm. Andy, we got to make sure that's the tournament. On the Dark Side from Eddie and the Cruisers. Tremendous album. Tremendous song. John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. My sister saw them live at Toad's Place in New Haven. Let's see. Midnight Madness by Night Ranger. Is a good album, too. Cargo, Men at Work. Of course, Cargo had Overkill on it. Let's see.
Sports. Huey Lewis and the News.
Yep, Sports. Johnny, do you remember Undercover, this album by the Stones? I don't really remember this album.
Not really. Undercover of the Night was a single. No, not one of the better ones.
The Final Cut by Pink Floyd. I like. Is On the Turning Away on that album? I think it is. I love that song. It's like one of my favorite Floyd songs. Let's see, some other good albums. That's pretty much it, really. Oh, Alpha, the backup, the follow-up album by Asia. So some tremendous albums that came out in 1983. Who could forget New Edition with the album that Mabel from Men on a Mission made famous on the Place to Be podcast, Candy Girl. I can't forget that. There you go. Can't forget Candy Girl. Rest in peace, Mabel.
I should have put Candy Girl from Dogma in the tournament. It's not in there. Like Salma Hayek stripping to that song. Huh?
Yes. The Grammy Awards. The 25th. It was a big year. The 25th Grammy Awards. Of course, that was from stuff that came out in 82. February of 83. John Denver hosted. One of Dr. G's guys until he killed him. Record of the Year was Rosanna by Toto, which is a great song. Album of the Year, Toto 4. So it's a big year for Toto, because Toto 4 is an awesome album. Song of the Year, Always on My Mind by Willie Nelson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Song of the Year. And the Best New Artist, we've talked about them often here in this segment, Men at Work. And they deserved it, big time. Some notes from MTV, which we'll be adding to the music segment, because it's MTV, and MTV kicks ass. At least back then they did. On March 10th, 1983, they broadcast Michael Jackson's Billie Jean for the first time. The video was the first by a black artist to gain great airplay on MTV. We talked about this, guys, when we did 1981, when we talked about the debut of MTV. A lot of people thought MTV was too white. There was too many white artists. And as a matter of fact, there's an infamous interview where David Bowie mouths off to Mark Goodman, and then he gets up and leaves, gets all mouthy with him and leaves because there's no black artists. As a matter of fact, I think what happened was Quincy Jones said that if you don't play Rick James' Super Freak on MTV, you will not get anything from Michael Jackson's upcoming album. This was in mid to late 82. MTV did, and of course, Michael Jackson did. And on March 10th, Billie Jean debuted. And of course, it gave Thriller the push that it did. And I'm looking at the Thriller. I have it on my wall in a frame. It's a tremendous album, as we all know. September 18th, 1983, Kiss appeared in public in the studio. You think to yourself, who gives a shit? Well, it's a big deal, because for the first time ever, the band walked on camera in public, makeupless. And what does that show you? Peter Criss was one ugly motherfucker, let me tell you.
Yeah,
he should have kept
that
much
freaked
makeup.
a lot of people out because people were like,
It did.
"That's what they look like, really? Okay."
Yeah.
That was a big deal at the time, though, because they were so guarded about their actual
Yes, they were.
look that they never went out in
Yeah.
public without, as a group, without makeup on.
Yep. And on December 2nd, and I remember this very well because I was sitting in my living room by myself. Nobody was home. I turned the lights out. That's how excited I was to want to watch it. So I had no lights on in my house. I was home alone. And on December 2nd, 1983, MTV released the 14-minute video for Thriller. And it was awesome. Does anyone remember what Andy would know? I'm going to ask Dr. G and Johnny. Do you guys remember who directed the Thriller video? He's a tremendous movie director.
John Landis.
John Landis.
John Landis, yep.
The guy who directed Animal House. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Directed,
I think he directed American Werewolf in London, which I think is what landed him the gig, I think, which is why.
Yep. So it was the most often repeated and requested music video of all time, and that, on top of the release of Billie Jean, made Thriller arguably one of the greatest albums of all time. And again, I have it on a frame on my wall. Probably top 5 album of all time. I think it's safe to say. Although his next album gives it a run for its money. But he doesn't release another album for quite a few years, guys. Probably the last time we talk about Michael Jackson for a few episodes. Because his next album doesn't come out, I don't think, until 87. So, but 83 was a big year for him. And we still talked about it with the Motown special. All the singles, the great album. Good year for Michael. And that is music in 1983. All those albums, all those singles, go on YouTube, whatever, Spotify, Apple Music. Play them, because 1983 is arguably one of the greatest years for music. And if you think 83 was good, wait till we get to 84. It's even better.
Mm-hmm.
But to wrap up our program for the night, let's go to the big screen. Movies in 1983. Andy, back to you.
All right, thanks, Scott. So we had the 55th Annual Academy Awards, April 11th of 1983. This is honoring the movies released in 1982. Your hosts were Liza Minnelli, Dudley Moore, Richard Pryor, and Walter Matthau. And it was Gandhi's night. They did a tremendous... they were nominated, most nominations with 11, most wins with 8, including Best Picture. It also took home Best Director for Richard Attenborough, as well as Best Actor with Sir Ben Kingsley. Best Actress went to Meryl Streep for Sophie's Choice, probably the start of her tremendous run. Best Supporting Actor was Louis Gossett Jr. for An Officer and Gentleman. Best Supporting Actress, if you didn't fall in love with this actress after seeing this movie, there's something wrong with you. That's Jessica Lange for Tootsie. Best Original Screenplay was for Gandhi. That is the writer John Briley. And Best Adapted Screenplay was Missing, Costa Gravas, and Donald E. Stewart. Now, we've talked about Gandhi before in the show, haven't we? I know, I think it was when it was released last year, and Scott's disdain for that movie.
My mother... I did something wrong. I don't know, forgot to take out the garbage or some such nonsense. And my punishment was I had to sit in my living room, not move, not change the channel, and watch Gandhi. That was my punishment. I had to sit and watch Gandhi alone. No drinks, no snacky poos. I couldn't have my pillow or my blankie. I wanted to blow my goddamn brains out. But and no disrespect to Ben Kingsley, who was a fucking amazing actor, Sir Ben Kingsley. but that movie, when you're 9 years old, is literally like watching snow melt. Dr. G thinks I can literally watch anything on TV. I cannot watch Gandhi. I'd rather kill myself. That and maybe Reds. I don't think I can watch that either. But anyway.
Yeah, it's actually a well-made movie, but I don't really have a desire to rewatch it. Even though I do have it on DVD as part of a Best Picture Oscar collection I have. But yeah. And Mickey Rooney took home an honorary Oscar that year as well. Tremendous home video releases that year. We had Secret of Nim, Creep Show, Flashdance came out, Tron, which came out on Betamax and VHS. I believe it came out on Laserdisc later on. Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, Tootsie, and then other movies like Blade Runner, The Dark Crystal, which still kind of freaks me out with those puppets. Jaws 3D, which you would hear on Blockbuster Rewind discussion, and as well as Porky's and Victor Victoria, amongst others. The average price of a movie ticket was $3.15. Here's your top 10 in terms of domestic gross.
Oh my God! I have to interrupt you. Do you know how long Gandhi is?
It's like
holy crap,
almost 4 hours, right?
It's 3 hours and 21 minutes.
Oh.
My God, my mother brutalized me. Should have called DCF. Really? 3 hours and 21 minutes. My God. That was ugly.
Oh, you were enjoying it. Who are you kidding?
Oh my God. Absolutely not. I might enjoy it now, but nobody enjoys 3-hour movies when you're 9 years old or 10 years old. Anyway, I digress. Sorry.
You could have watched the Thriller video like what? Like
I could have watched the Thriller video 85 times. Yeah. Would have been amazing. I wish.
So your top 10 in terms of domestic box office gross of that year. Number 10, Risky Business. Tom Cruise hiring a hooker. Losing a Porsche and an egg. Tremendous flick. Another one, very underrated comedy, Mr. Mom, with Michael Keaton and Terry Garr, Jeffrey Tambor, isn't that? Yeah,
Michael Keaton.
Great movie that doesn't get the love it should today. Number 8, Staying Alive, the sequel, Saturday Night Fever. And number 7, a Dirty Harry movie, Sudden Impact.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember seeing that in the theater when he said, "Go ahead, make my day." The friggin' theater friggin' popped like it was a wrestling match.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Yeah, one of the most iconic lines in movie history.
Yeah.
And at number 6, one of the 2 Bond movies released that year, Octopussy. With, Maud Adams, I believe, was Octopussy in that movie. That was a Roger.
I love Andy. Yes, Roger Moore. I love how when you. I love how when you give the actors of a movie, you pick like the 4th person on the list first.
Well,
like,
I don't.
Octopussy with The Grip.
No, well, I mean, like I have not seen that movie in a long time, and I remember Maud Adams being Octopussy. That's all.
Well, she was the first Bond girl. She was the first actress ever to be a Bond girl twice, because she was also in Man with the Golden Gun. So when you get to the other Bond movie, I have a story. But go ahead.
Number 5, excuse me, War Games, which I remember seeing. I think I saw that in the theater with Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy.
Yeah, we play a game.
You know, where he wants to be. Imagine if he had chosen to be America and almost launched, nuclear weapons on the Russians. We would have had World War III. Hello, Joshua.
Hello, Joshua. Wouldn't you prefer a nice game of chess?
Well, a funny scene with Maury Chaykin and Eddie Deason. And earlier in that movie, where they try to, he calls him Mr. Potato Head.
The Potato Head.
Great comedy.
Back doors are not secrets. Sorry.
Number 4, we have Trading Places. Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd.
Jamie Lee Curtis's boobs. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Ralph Bellamy and Don Amici as the brothers, who we see them pop up again, actually, in a cameo. Randolph and Mortimer Duke in Coming to America. They have a really small part. That was a pop in a theater when I saw that. The people that were old enough to know what that meant. a lot of the youngins did not get that reference.
The dollar bet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The dollar bet. Mm-hmm. And then number 3, Flashdance, which I don't know if I've ever actually seen the whole thing. And number 2, Terms of Endearment, probably one of the most depressing movies you'll ever see. At number 1, episode 6, the beginning, or the end, sorry, of the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi. I remember standing online for a lot of time to get into that movie theater. I remember that was the first time I remember hearing people clap, like in the theater.
I did. I did.
I remember, when Yoda shows up for the first time and everything like that. I think I turned to my dad like, "Why are people clapping? They know they can't hear us, right?" But Jedi is, I know G and Johnny aren't the biggest Star Wars guys, but that is still up there. I mean, as my probably second or third favorite of all the Star Wars movies, I would think.
It's up there for me. It's probably 4 or 5. It's the great payoff. Jabba the Hutt. What's funny is the original title of the movie, Lawrence Kasdan originally titled it Revenge of the Jedi, but George Lucas poo-pooed that because Jedi Knights don't go for revenge. They don't believe in it. So good luck finding a movie poster, an authentic movie poster from 82, 83 that says Revenge of the Jedi. You will not find, I am not kidding you, you will not find it for less than $2,000.
I actually, a movie theater in Freehold, New Jersey, which I frequent when I'm out at my family's house during the summer. I don't know if they still have it up, but they have a Revenge of the Jedi framed poster on their wall.
Yeah.
In that theater.
Good luck finding it for cheaper than $2,000 on eBay or anything else. It's incredibly rare. Mm-hmm. Incredibly rare.
Yes. Other movies released that year. We're going to mention some. All the Right Moves, another Tom Cruise movie. The Big Chill.
Great movie.
Tremendous soundtrack and typical 80s. Here's a show, although the guy has a movie, the guy has quite fallen from grace, but Bill Cosby himself, arguably one of the funniest stand-up concerts I've ever seen. I mean, just the dentist, the kid's breakfast thing, the drugs, all that stuff is tremendous. I mean, I don't know how rewatchable it is today based on what we know about him. But
probably can't even find it.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I mean, I think we had it on VHS somewhere, so I don't know if we still have it. Blue Thunder came out. That was Roy Scheider and a tricked out helicopter. There you go, Scott. One of your movies, Christine.
Yes, I love Christine.
Mm-hmm. Killer Car.
Stephen King. Got it on the wall. I got it on my shelf. Love Christine.
Yeah, a movie that we watch every year on TNT and TBS. A Christmas Story. Ralphie.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my top 2 or 3 favorite Christmas movie ever.
Mm-hmm. Which I believe we talked about during my big Christmas spectacular.
Yes, we did.
Which is just ending now along that podcast list.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Another Stephen King adaptation, Cujo. About
Cujo's a great movie.
Here's a movie that I loved at the time, but it probably doesn't have the rewatchability. DC Cab with Mr. T and Adam
Gary Busey.
Gary Busey.
I love it. It's still pretty good. It's got a few good laughs. It's got quite a cast. Man.
It does. And we got Deal of the Century, Chevy Chase vehicle.
Chevy Chase.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Detroit with Dan Aykroyd. Here's a movie that we mentioned the song, but I would love to get this on Laughing Theater one day. Easy Money.
Yes.
One of my favorite Rodney Dangerfield movies.
So good. Good.
Joe Pesci as Nicky. I mean, hey, Rose, there's a Messerschmitt in the kitchen. Clean it up. Rose. I tell you. Hey.
So good.
Hey, can you put your two heads together and make an ass out of yourselves? You got any men's shirts for men?
Yeah. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I approve.
Then you got Educating Rita with the great Michael Caine. We talked about Jaws 3D. Tune in, like I said, tune in to Blockbuster Rewind. But did you guys, any of you guys besides me, go see that in the theater?
Yep, I did. I saw it at a theater in. We were on vacation. My family, my parents, my brother, and I were in somewhere in New England. I don't know if it was Vermont or New Hampshire. And it was raining, so my parents walked around the mall, and my brother and I, at the theater connected to the mall, saw Jaws 3 in 3D. It was awesome.
Cardboard red and blue glasses and so good.
Yep. It was amazing.
The King of Comedy also came out that year. Robert De Niro, Jerry Lewis.
Yes, fans of the Joker, as we talked about on our Joker podcast, there's a lot of similarities inspired by King of Comedy.
Mm-hmm. The Man with Two Brains, the Steve Martin movie.
some under the radar comedies
Yeah.
in this year.
This was a tremendous year for Monty Python's The Meaning of Life.
Yeah, not big hit like hits at the box office, but there's still classic comedies. Man with Two Brains and Meaning of Life for both. And the next one you're going to mention.
National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yes.
Sorry, folks. Park's closed. Moose out front. Should have told you.
Yep.
Roy Wally World. The dog peed
The
on.
dog wet on the picnic basket. So great.
Yes. Another Bond movie. This is a Sean Connery vehicle. Never Say Never Again.
Yes.
Scott, you said
Let me
you have
give
a story about that?
Yeah, there's a background to this. There's a reason why there were 2 Bond movies in 1983. So I gotta go back in time. This story will be quick, I promise. So in the 60s, pre-movies, Ian Fleming wrote a screenplay with a guy named Kevin McClory. They were going to do a movie. They kind of fell through. Nothing much happened. Then Ian Fleming wrote the book Thunderball, which Kevin McClory says Ian Fleming ripped him off and took the thing without giving him any credit, so he sued and everything. And it became an obsession with Kevin McClory that he wanted to crush Albert Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman and destroy Eon Productions and take all the Bond over, and that shit was never going to happen. In any event, he won a lawsuit to be able to do Thunderball on his own after a certain period of time. Well, he ended up being producer on the actual Thunderball when they released it in 1965 with Sean Connery. Fast forward, in 1982, the statute of limitations ended on the court case, and Kevin McClory was allowed to do his own Thunderball. Well, at the time, Sean Connery, who hadn't done a Bond movie in 12 years, was pissed off at Cubby Broccoli, thought he got ripped off back when he was in Bond and usual, producer-actor feud. So McClory got Sean Connery to do his version of Thunderball. So if you watch Thunderball and Never Say Never Again, it's the same movie, just Never Say Never Again is cheaper looking. So Roger Moore was going to retire from Bond after For Your Eyes Only 2 years earlier. But Cubby Broccoli and all the United Artists begged Roger to come back to do Octopussy because they needed him to go up against Sean in a one-on-one Bond versus Bond. So that's why there were 2 Bond movies in 1983, because this guy Kevin McClory wanted to do his version of Thunderball, and he did, and it made $160 million, mostly out of curiosity. Octopussy made $187 million, so it was a better looking movie. No knock on I love Roger, but no knock on either of the Bond guys. But Never Say Never Again was a cheap looking movie. It was cheap looking. So everyone thought that Kevin McClory was done. He did his movie and he was done, but he would stay in the Bond family's craw for the next 25 years for other reasons, which we'll get to down the line in future episodes. In any event, that's why there were 2 Bond movies in 1983. You can hear more about that on the Pop Goes the Classics Bond Legacy series here on the Pop Feed with myself and Rob Tech Piontek as we went through the history of Bond. We get more into that during the Roger Moore episode, so I'll get more detail. So anyway, that's why there were 2 Bond movies in 1983, because this guy wanted to make his own version of Thunderball, and other than Sean Connery, it really wasn't that great. It had a very young Kim Basinger in it, but it was very cheap looking. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify to the listeners why there were 2 Bond movies competing with each other in 1983.
Okay. Good
So,
stuff.
thank you, Andy.
Yep. The Outsiders, also a Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Great movie.
That is, there are times you look at a movie and you look back on them and you just look at the cast of then unknowns or up and comers. This is up there. It's probably one of the greatest casts of guys that go on to become huge deals. You're talking about Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Ralph Macchio, C. Thomas Howell, Tom Cruise, Matt Dillon, all Emilio Estevez. A lot of them had small parts in this movie. Then you also had Leif Garrett, who was kind of already a famous guy. Didn't really do much afterwards, but it's a great movie. The Right Stuff, the astronaut movie. A movie that's on my shame list. You guys are going to give me shit probably. Scarface. Still have not yet seen that. I'll watch it right after Cuckoo's Nest. Silkwood, another more Meryl Streep that has Cher in it actually as well. A cult comedy, Strange Brew, starring Bob and Doug McKenzie from SCTV.
Oh, I love Strange Brew. Take off, you knob.
Alrighty.
Love
Not
that.
Not
So
one.
fair.
Not one of the more top Mel Brooks movies. Still a very funny movie. To Be or Not to Be.
Oh, I love To Be or Not to Be. That's a great movie. I like that.
Yeah. Twilight Zone, the movie, which is more infamous for what happened during the production with the deaths. I believe we talked about in the last episode. And the Barbara Streisand star Yentl, which I've never sat through. Although if I ever had to, it'd probably be like Scott watching Gandhi for me.
I think I'd rather watch Gandhi than Yentl. But anyway, we move on.
All right, so that's going to wrap up movies in 1983. So we're going to kind of go around the room and see what everybody's got going on. Dr. G, you've become quite a busy man since we've started this jaunt through the years. What do you got coming up or that people can check out?
Yeah, so we got the NWA Saturday special with Scott Criscuolo, which will drop on Saturday. We do this weekly, and this week we're going to be talking about the Great American Bash, kind of celebrating 4th of July. We're taking a break from our Mount Rushmore of the NWA to talk about the how the Great American Bash came about, through Dusty Rhodes and why they decided to take it on the road to different stadiums at the time. And I'm looking forward to breaking that down with Scott on Saturday. And then my new podcast with Sean Kidd and Callum McDougall called NWA Crock and Roll. And Scott, that's dropping on the 22nd.
I believe yes. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe yes. So on July 22nd will be the debut episode of NWA Crock and Roll, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited. Another tremendous show on the Place to Be Wrestling Network feed. Another show that you all can use for your GWCW research. It's more great content with great guys, so I'm excited.
Yeah, we recorded and we just had a blast doing it, and just takes you back in time. And what's great about it is we have, when we started doing this, Sean and I, we grew up watching it originally, but now I'm going back and, obviously you see it through different eyes as you get older. And then we have Callum McDougall, who's watching it for the first time. And we'll have like special guests every time we do the shows. This time we had Jacob Williams, and he's watching it for the first time. So it's really neat to see the different perspectives and also to see how we all kind of agree on certain things that we're watching based on whatever, Sean breaks it down for which things we're going to cover. And it's a really fun show. You'll really enjoy it. And it's a great time from 85 to 88. So check it out when it drops on the 22nd, NWA Crock and Roll. Thank you, guys.
Cool.
I look forward to that. It's Great American Bash season, so I've been watching a lot of Great American Bashes lately.
All right, Johnny, what do you got coming up or up out there that people can check out?
Bi-weekly, the Extreme Three-Way Dance on the No-So network, and I'll be stepping out for the Rumble 91 on the Mothership, and I'll return for WrestleMania 7 with the boys.
Yes.
They have a special guest lined up for Rumble 91, so I'll step aside for that. And otherwise, keeping a low profile. We'll see. Some stuff will come up on the pop feed that I'll tip in on.
All right, awesome! Can't wait to hear it, Mr. Criscuolo. You're on a shit ton of shows, but
I got a lot of shit. Let's just get out of here.
Anything in particular you want to direct people to? That's up right now.
Follow me on Twitter at PTVPodfather. Again, the NWA Saturday special. The Doctor and I have a great episode that's coming up this weekend. Listen to that show weekly. We pray that we're hoping that Billy Corgan and the current NWA get back in the groove because we're looking forward to talking new content, but we're enjoying our weekly history lessons. G and I have a blast with that show. JR and I did the Place to Be podcast earlier this week with our good friend Dave Hall, who I think we've ever had on, and he's one of our oldest fans. He's like in D'Amato territory as an OG. And we did the November 90 MSG house show. We'll have a new main event this week with Nate and Steve. And plenty of fun stuff down the line. So again, PTB at PTB Podfather on Twitter. And just the Place to Be Wrestling Network is where it's at. We got some amazing stuff all the time. Tremendous wrestling content up and down the dial, as the song said on KRP. So check it out.
All right,
Good
cool.
stuff.
As far as me, I mostly live here on the Pop Feed. You can check out the latest episodes of Great Debate. I'm not sure when the next one's coming, as well as more episodes of Laugh in Theater. The next episode, which should be coming out about a week after this one drops, will be Lee Elias joining me for Back to the Future, celebrating the 35th anniversary, which is actually this weekend. So, tremendous movie. Lee is a great guest, one of the co-hosts of Geeks Like Sports, an old friend of mine. So, I'm really looking forward to watching that. And plus, we'll talk about that, the whole franchise on a whole down the line at some point. And other episodes of Laugh in Theater coming soon. I haven't yet to determine which ones will be coming. Check out the first episode of Blockbuster Rewind. I'm very happy with that show, as I mentioned earlier. Scott and Eric are doing a tremendous job out the gate. Next episode coming in probably mid-July. We're going to be looking at the great disaster movies. I believe they both came out in 1998. Competing, The Earth is Going to Be Destroyed, Armageddon, and Deep Impact, as well as probably talk about a couple other kind of smaller asteroid or whatever coming to destroy the Earth. But that's going to be a lot of fun. And Jennifer Smith, the Queen Bee of Place Nation, will be our guest on that episode, as well as our next episode of Pop Goes the Classics, our Disney retrospective. We're up to Bambi, so check that out. That's myself, Miranda Berthel, and Jack Campbell, and we actually may start adding a new voice to that show. So check that out over on the wrestling feed. Check me out on Great Debate Wrestling. Scott, you were on the last episode, and there will be a new episode hopefully soon within the next month or so. But I'm very excited to be recording the next episode of Evolution very soon. That is with The Godfather, Nate Milton, and we will be discussing the career of the icon, the Mr. WCW, Sting. So I'm really looking forward to that, having a good time with Nate. Also, don't forget, check out the greatest song from a movie tournament. I'm not sure if we'll have a pod blast promoting the tournament or not, but check it out on the media pages. It's going to be 8 matchups a day going for the first round, and then we'll probably pare it back a little bit. But it's a little something for everybody in this tournament. It's wide open, and let's just have some fun and have some great conversations. So, as usual, tremendous episode, gentlemen. Quite enjoy our monthly or every 6 weekly talk through the years, and I'm really looking forward to the next year. So, for my co-host Scott Criscuolo and Dr. G, George Ribellino, and Arsenio D'Amato, I'm Andy Atherton. Thank you for joining us here on Year in Pop, and we'll see you in 1984. Take care, everybody.
All right, watch Scarface, Andy.
Are you getting up in the meat truck like Frankie Carbone?
Oh God.